The Sports on the Hill podcast. Hashtag Sports Without the Politics with Carol and Robbie on Twitter. Network.
That's right. You already know. Oh, I thought I killed mine. There we go. My bad about that. That's right. That's what we do. DC Sports Without the Politics. Excuse me. CP3 coming to you live from the last Sports on the Hill podcast, episode 269, playoff edition, NBA and NHL. We also, as always, have Capitals talk to start the show out. Get ready for their matchup with the Florida Panthers starting tomorrow night. We're going to talk about some Commanders football in the 2022 NFL draft. Then we're going to recap the 2-4 week for the Nationals. We're sitting 8-16. They have the night off tonight. They play tomorrow in Colorado. And then we're going to have our NBA roundtable with the playoff, recapping the first round and getting into the second round of the playoffs. And I actually watched a little bit of the basketball, so I'm going to have a couple of questions and comments for the roundtable, so be sure to tune in for that. That'll be in the second hour of the show. But as always, we appreciate y'all tuning in, checking us out, because, you know, this is what we do. We do it for you, and we do it because we love it. We got 2 NHL games, playoff games that have underway right now. We got Toronto up 4-0 on Tampa Bay in the second, with 1:52 left, and we got Carolina up 2-1 over Boston in the third period with 16 minutes left. So the NHL playoff season has started. The NBA playoffs already underway. We got the NFL draft and a lot of players and undrafted free agents. And we got Capitals talking and previewing this matchup with the Florida Panthers #1 seed. RobbieG, how are you doing tonight, good sir?
I'm good. I'm just sharing to a couple of Capitals groups right now while we're chatting, but not the best last week for the Capitals. They kind of limped into the playoffs, didn't play Ovi a lot. Didn't really go hard for that last spot, which was there for the taking. If they had actually won out that last week, they could have moved up and played a different team in the New York Rangers, but they just kind of coasted, sat some players, played some uninspired hockey at times, but we're in the promised land. You know, you don't want to get anyone too injured or overly injured. You know, Ovi had gotten hurt right before. We kind of talked about taking the whole week off. I guess I'll start off with that, and then we'll break down the games. Carol, what was your thought about resting Ovi for all 3 games and, you know, having the team not look so good in general?
The fact that he came out and said that he could have played in, 1, maybe 2 of those games, and the way they did look, especially the game that he got injured in. I didn't like the way they went into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak, looking as
4-game, right? I think because they lost the last game that we covered last week too. So
just thinking about the 3 games without him, but yeah, we lost the game that he went out in also. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the goalies, the way they played, giving up goals. I didn't like the defense, and that can't be all attributed to him not being there. I just didn't like the whole week, the way I didn't see the effort. I didn't see the run. I didn't see the solid defense for 60 minutes. And it was kind of disturbing, especially going into this matchup with Florida, who's, one of the top offensive teams in the league. Like I say, had the comeback ability. They've done it twice on the Capitals. And it didn't leave a good taste in my mouth going into this matchup with Florida.
Yeah, I was very frustrated. I didn't get to watch a lot of the games. I was really busy last week, and just like I took them off, it seems like the Capitals did too, because I would check in every once in a while. And I was like, if it's a close game, I was going to turn it on. But man, some tough losses. You know, I did check in, see some highlights, and checked out some scores. We'll go through it, but just overall just kind of brutal. But I'll just break down the scoring very quickly in the 3 games, and then I'll let Carroll give his thought on each game, and then we'll look ahead. And then we'll look ahead to the other playoff matchups, including the games that are going on right now. This Toronto 4-0 game and this Carolina 2-1 game that are both exciting, and I'm excited about the playoffs. So that's why we'll do this as quickly and as painless as possible. So going back to last week, on Tuesday, April 26th, the Islanders came to town. Our last home game. It's supposed to be a fan appreciation night. And yeah, the Connor Sherry scored at 10:24, and then they tied it up at 6:18, and then they scored. Neither team scored in the second period, and then they scored 3 goals in the third period. Overall, just uninspired play. I mean, it was Ilya Sorkin made 32 saves. He looked pretty good in net. But just not enough, obviously, goal scoring. And what was your takeaway on that game, Carl?
I say frustrating. I didn't see defense for 60 minutes. You mentioned the 3 goals given up in the third. Like you say, they had their destiny in their hands. They had a game in hand with a chance to, gain position in the playoffs. And, this was not a good start to the week. And, the fact that Ovi wasn't there and, Trout knows the team, most of the team, and knows how, the weaknesses and things to exploit. And then once they got a lead, it was over. And it was just frustrating to watch, honestly.
Yeah, it seemed that way. Okay, so we're going to not spend too much time talking about that game because we have another game against the Islanders. It's the rematch. It's if you win these last 2 games, you still have a chance to play the Rangers in round 1. But instead of going to New York Islanders, which meanwhile, they are, yes, the last team that didn't make the top 8. They're the number 9 seed. But what's crazy, I was looking at the stats, they are 16 points behind where the Capitals stood. So there was a pretty big divide where Vegas only missed it by 3 points. They were the 9th-seeded team in the West. And so the West is a lot more bunched up in the middle, where in the East, it's like we talked about it last week, 8 teams with 100 points is unheard of. But on this night, it wasn't to be that case. I just don't know why we didn't put more emphasis into this game, but they scored 5 goals before we scored our first goal at 19:18 in the game to make it so it wasn't a 5-0 shutout. Axel Johnson Fialbi, or AJF as we call him, got his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Anthony Mantha. So I'm wearing my Mantha Ray shirt. His 14th assist on the season, and Favari got his 9th assist on the season. He also got, the Capitals do a defensive player of the month for their own team, and he was awarded defensive player of the month for the Capitals by the Capitals. So he's been playing great on both sides of the ice. Pretty bad game. I mean, the first period, 2 goals within a 6-minute period, no goals in the second once again, and then they got 2 goals pretty early in the third, and then 1 a little bit later by Josh Bailey. But just overall, I mean, that's not very good.
Yeah, I was expecting more effort and a better effort, especially after the 5-1 loss, 4-1 loss the game before. And the fact that, they came out, jumped on them early, and the Caps didn't have a response. Second period, which has normally been their roughest period offensively and defensively, at least they didn't give them any goals in the second. But in the third period, they have had one of the best goal differentials, and this time it went against them. Like I said, if it wasn't for the late goal, it would have been a shutout. And it just definitely wasn't a good 2 games against the Islanders. Granted, like I said, it's Trout. He's a defensive coach. The Islanders, they got hot to get within that 16 points. Because remember, they were at the bottom of the conference for a long time. So they got it together. They remember they have a lot of injuries on their squad. So, they couldn't get it together like they wanted to, but they did get into a groove in like the middle towards the last quarter of the season. They got into a groove and actually was putting pressure on the Capitals to, make sure they kept on doing what they were doing to secure their spot. Because they would have went on the loser streak when they got hot. We could be talking about the Caps on the outside looking in. But he definitely had them ready to play and had them locked in. Even though they weren't making the playoffs, he had them ready to play both those games, and they put it on the Caps both of those games. Nothing else you can say.
Yeah, it was a pretty brutal game. I mean, I watched the highlights, and there's not a whole lot more I can say about it. Just a really uninspired game, and I don't know. It brings to light our goaltending issues. I mean, because Vitek was in that one, and I believe Sammy had the other one, right? So neither of them took command. Is that right? Did Sammy have the first one? I just want to make sure I was right on that. I think he did.
Carolina just took a 3-1 lead over Boston, just scoring in the third period. They won a 2-1 odd man rush.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Thank you. You're like 2 seconds ahead of me, so it's perfect. I can watch the replay. Yeah, nice goal, nice breakaway, a pass across the ice, and just rips it. And it goes top shelf, yeah, on the short side, it looks like. So
the goalie's weak spot, right top side on the short side.
Yeah.
Side most of the time, because that's where
Carolina is dangerous. I'm happy we didn't have to play them first round.
I mean, Carolina, the fact that we handled them the way we did 4-0 towards the end of the season.
That's true.
That was a good game.
But then that other game though that we had that I don't really want to talk about.
Put it on the Caps, yeah. But I shared the video of Wilson knocking out one of their guys. So, if that match would have been there, I would have loved to see that series and see how that one turned out. But Carolina's coming out on top of Boston right now with 12 minutes left in the third. So let's go ahead and get into this Rangers game so we can preview this matchup with Florida that we have upcoming.
Yeah. Let's get into this Rangers game. But my whole point was neither goalie took command of either of these games to prove that they both had an opportunity. They gave him the last week. We don't have a full team. You still have to show up. Neither of them took it, Carol. And then, so here we go.
The fact that they called up for Cali, they're going in the playoffs with 3 goalies.
You always do that. You always play.
Yeah, but I'm saying for Cali, his first start was a shutout. What if he could be the Cinderella story that comes from the AHL and the Hershey Bears?
I would love that story, but his numbers in the AHL this year don't pan out that he was a world beater. The fact, how is he going to go from a 2.33 in the AHL to under a 2 goals against in the playoffs? I mean, it could happen. We've seen crazier things.
2-3-3. That's decent for a playoff goal. They were averaging when they were, clicking them 4.5, almost 5 goals. So if he can give up 2-3-3, and we've seen Sammy, once he gets leaky, he just starts letting everything in.
Yeah. You won't see him unless we've already lost 2 games though. I feel like it's going to be a short leash.
I don't think it's going to be a quick, 1 game snatch and boom, boom, boom. You're at least going to give him hopefully a full game that it isn't, out of hand. But the Cap, I don't want to get into the preview. We'll get into that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and break down this Rangers game and we can preview the Florida matchup.
Yeah. So Carly was mentioning that you have it listed as just chatting. And then when I told you about Twitch podcasting on Twitch, we didn't have this category. There's actually one that's called podcasts. So if you wanted to switch it to that, but just chatting is fine as well. People could find you in either channel, but there's actually
a Twitch stuff too.
Yeah. So there's a podcasting one, but anyway, I can teach you about that later. But that's a good point. Thank you, Carly. I want to thank Carly and Andy are in chat, other people are joining chat and wishing me well on that. So I want to thank everyone for coming by and congratulating me on 1 year of affiliate on Twitch. That's really nice of everybody. And shout out to a lot of awesome people that are in my Twitch chat. If anyone has any questions on the Facebook chat as well, they can. I see that there are people who are watching live. And Eric asked, how many games have the Caps won without Ovi? Not a whole lot. Some years they do better than others. It depends on, I think, situation in the past, but he hasn't missed many games. They kept on talking about it. He's been there 97% of the time of available games since he's entered the league, which is one of the best, across the whole entire sport. And for 17 years is kind of unheard of. But hopefully he'll be ready for game one. They're actually gonna when Nicholas Backstrom and Ovechkin get into, I believe, and I'm trying to remember this right, the 14th playoff together, it'll be a franchise record because they already own a ton of the franchise stats. They own it 14, only 14 active players that have 100 career playoff points. So they do have that and Ovechkin in 71 career playoff goals in 141 games. It's the most among active players. So, we talk about his regular season ones we have all season, but we can't forget that he has always been a force to reckon with. And Backstrom sits at 72 playoff assists in his 133 games, and he's 5 shy of cracking the top 50 in career playoff assists. So, I'm excited to see them back at it. Let's talk about the Rangers game real fast, and then I can talk more stats. I got a bunch, but this one was an unfortunate loss. It started off with the Rangers, no scores in the first. In the second, they scored. The Rangers scored at 3:26. Justin Schultz had an answer like 30 seconds later on his 4th goal of the season, assist by Trevor Van Riemsdyk. He ties it at 1-1. John Carlson, the guy we've talked about a lot this season, has his 17th goal of the season as a defensive player on the power play. That was just about a minute 12 later. Assist by Kuzi, his 54th, and TJ Oshie's 14th assist. Unfortunately, Alexis Lafreniere at 15:44 ties the game at 2. And then in the third period, they get a goal and win it. That goal is at 6:42. We don't really have to get too much into it, but it's just frustrating because Sammy had a nod in this game. And I really felt like if Sammy wins this game against the Rangers, regardless of what matters, I know that we needed the Penguins to lose. They didn't lose. At that point, it was no longer in our hands. But Sammy had an opportunity here. He let this one get away. Carol, what are your thoughts on this game? And then what do we do with the goalie situation that we're not resolved from last week?
This game was a little bit better. They still took the loss, but we saw a better effort. Like we said, it was tied up going into the third. They gave up a goal 6 minutes in and couldn't get the answer. Their goalie, Georgiev, which is the weaker of the two that they have, I was hoping they would be able to, crack him late in the game, but unfortunately they weren't able to get that tying goal. They went 1 for 5 on the power play. Ovi's missing, so everything is still a little discombobulated, even and still having John Carlson, and sometimes he's over in Ovi's office, but it's not the same as having Ovi over there. They outshot him. They got killed in the face-off circle. Even on the hits, it was just like I say, it was a better game than we saw the previous 2. So something to build off of. Also, so Laviolette said that they, their practices they had were spirited and they're ready for Florida, ready for the, postseason and, shook off the regular season. Everything is 0-0 right now. So I'm hoping that that's true. I'm hoping they come out there ready to play. And it's going to be interesting against these Panthers.
These matchups are pretty crazy. I kind of want to get into all the other matchups, but let's talk about this Florida one first, and then we can talk about some of these crazy playoff implications and matchups and like how this whole bracket works and all that sort of stuff. And but I don't know where to start with this Panthers team. They're very, very good. I know a lot of Caps fans don't know anything about them. They're basing a lot of knowledge from previous times when we played them. This is our first time ever playing them in the playoffs. It's never happened before. They're, in fact, the last team in the Eastern Conference that we hadn't played against. And that's because they haven't been very good in the playoffs historically. They haven't won in the playoffs since the 90s. But their offense is legendary. I mean, right now it's scoring more goals than anybody has in decades. And they've got 5 30-point players. It's 5
4 30 goal scorers.
4 30 goal scorers. That's what it is. Yeah. And then 5 or 6 20, I think. So, or more. So
looking at their stats right now, they're first in goals, 4.11. First in shots on goal, 37. They were tied for fifth for power play, 24%. Face-off percentage was 48, so that's a weak spot for them. Hopefully the Capitals can do a little bit better than they did against the Rangers. I believe it was 61 to 39%. They give up.
Carol, our Twitch feed, our Zoom seems to be frozen.
Shit.
Now yours came back. Let me see how mine's doing. Mine was frozen for a minute too. Hold on, let me undo my camera and bring it back in. All right, there we go.
All right.
Actually, here, Carol, can you do one quick thing for me? Can you turn off your camera for a second and then turn it back on? Because then it will reset on my screen. Thank you. Appreciate you.
You know,
all right,
the live technology.
But thank you to chat for letting us know. So I appreciate you, Twitch chat. So
good looking, folks. Good looking. Appreciate that. Give up almost 3 goals a game, allow 30 shots. Penalty kill isn't really that good. So I mean, they're vulnerable, but the Caps are going to have to be on point against this team because they score a lot. The ability to come back is what I guess has me a little worried because we've seen them do it twice against this Caps team. They were 1-1 against them, and both the losses were come from behind. One of them they came back from, I believe, 3 goals down to win the game in overtime, 5-4. So that's what has me worried about this team, especially at home. Even though the Capitals are the best road team, if they have a lapse and don't play that full 60 minutes like they're supposed to, like we've seen them sometimes not do, i.e. this past week, then they could be in trouble. But if they play 60 minutes of solid defense and play like they play, I mean, all 3 games were good. They were all 1-goal games. But if they get a lead, they need to know how to hold on to it, especially against this team with so much firepower and the confidence to know that they can come back in regular season. Playoffs is a different beast, and that's where the goaltending comes in. We'll talk about that after we break down this series some more.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so nervous with our goaltenders, but I was there in 2010. I was actually thinking about wearing some like iconic old playoff shirts from all of the heartbreak in previous years. So some people are new fans, that like the Rock the Red and we're super excited. And then we had heartbreak for a bunch of years. And then there's some people that are even newer than that just really experienced 2018 in the last couple of years. And it's just interesting. And there's all these diehard fans that have been there, since the beginning of the franchise, in the late 70s and stuff. So it's interesting, right? Because I remember growing up and just getting my heart ripped for me in playoff series, or even in 2010, I sat on the glass, Carol, and I watched this team in Game 5 lose to Halak. I was on the motherfucking glass, and I'm watching us not be able to get anything past this goaltender. It was the most infuriating game I've ever gone to. And at that time, we were the President's Trophy. We were the #1 team that everyone thought there was no way that we could get beat. And on the other side there, you have this team that's an 8 seed that gets in, and no one gave him any credit, but the goalie got hot at the right time. And if Sammy can get hot at the right time, we can fucking go far with him, but I just don't know what to believe. And he's so athletic. He could do it. People are so like all on Double V's bandwagon and wouldn't even look at Sammy. Sammy is the better goaltender of the two, just straight up, but he doesn't always bring it out of himself. He relies too much on his athleticism and not enough on being just very calm and collected like Double V is at times.
The point that I was asked the problem. He makes these athletic saves because he's not being fundamentally sound. He's not staying in position, not get down in the butterfly correctly.
I agree.
Because he's relying on his athleticism. That's why I give Double V the edge, because no matter how athletic he is, he's always fundamentally sound. He's always, doing what he's supposed to do. He's always just a muscle memory. Even if it's an easy shot or a difficult shot, you still see the same technique. But with Sammy, he depends on that. And sometimes he takes chances. Sometimes he's leaning too much one way. We saw a couple of bad goals and giving up short side. when he was hugging a post, but he's leaning one way, anticipating something else instead of being in the moment. Excuse me. So that's the only issue I have with Sammy, is that he makes those athletic saves because he has to, because he's not in position. You don't see Double V making all of those because he's more fundamentally sound and he's always in position. He, like I said, that's the way I was used to seeing him until this last stretch over the last month of the year, when I was hoping that he would get back locked in and show them that, hey, I can take the reins in the playoffs and you can have faith in me. But like you said, nobody stepped up and took that command. So it's right now it's going to be who is effective and who plays well. And like you say, you at least give them the whole game, see how the first game of the series goes and how comfortable they look, and go from there. If they don't, say he starts Sammy and say he doesn't look comfortable out there and doesn't look like he's, locked in and he's worrying about other stuff and not seeing the puck well, then yeah, you pull him. But if he's in the game, it's a 1-goal game, a dirty goal got in, then you give him a second game and see what he does with it. And if they get the win and he plays solid, if you get the lose and he plays solid, I say you got to go with him game 3 just to see what he can do at home. If he can, ride those solid performances, even though it might have been a loss. So say they split in Florida, then yeah, you let him take the reins. And the same thing with Double V. If he puts him out there and the same thing happens, you got to give him a chance to get locked in. You don't want to change too soon. And then if you do, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you change,
I think, but you're saying start with Sammy or you start with Double V? What's your pick right now? Game 1. I thought I heard you wavering, but I want to get it on the record right now. Like, it's tomorrow. We don't have, they said they're not even gonna announce it until tomorrow, which is annoying that we don't even know the night before the fucking game. But anyway, which I totally get. Don't give them anything. In fact, I wouldn't even announce it in practice. I would fucking be like, show up and figure it out. At this point, nice.
I'm looking at all the last 3 games. And looking at the goals against, the shots and everything. Like I say, Double V had 1 of those and Samsonov had 2. He had the 4-1 loss that went to over. He had the going back too far, sorry, and Maple Leafs game.
What was that?
No, I went too far back on my schedule.
Oh yeah. I
was looking at the damn Toronto Maple Leafs game. I was like, wow, I'm trying to find the Islanders game. I went too far. But against this Florida offense at home, they're going to be riled up. I have more faith in Double V coming out the gate being ready than I do in Sammy.
Okay. I kind of agree. Sammy had 2 chances to prove himself this week and didn't do it. Double V also had 1, but didn't do it. But I feel more confident with Double V right now because he's more positionally sound, as we've said. But it's hard because I know that Sammy is the higher ceiling. So I think you start Double V in the first game and you have Sammy in the second game. And
like I said, it depends on the outcome of the first game. If the first game is close and he looks good, you got to give him the second game because you got to give him a chance to get locked in and get into a rhythm. Especially,
all right, that's fair. It's just hard because they've gone back and forth all season, right?
Yeah,
so I don't know what he's going to do. It's a total clusterfuck in most people's point of view. A lot of people just think Lavi's a bad coach because this whole situation is blown out of control. But I know that Lavi is a good coach. He's brought three different teams to the cup, but
they're spoiled because we've always had 2 quality or at least 1 veteran experienced goalie on this squad. And this is the first time that we really don't have that. So they're used to that. So they're trying to say he's a bad coach. But no, we've had solid goaltending. We've had solid goaltending in the minor leagues. We've traded away a couple of them. That's why we are where we are now, because we never got a chance for the ones that had some tenure to, see if they can make it in the pros because they didn't, trading them somewhere else. So they've just gotten used to us having, a veteran goaltender and a guy waiting in the wings. And we got so comfortable with Braden for so long. And then we had a couple of guys come up behind him. You saw Grubauer go, and, a couple of other guys that, were quality goaltenders that would have been, quality starter for us, but we had Brayton. So you got to look at the big picture. That's the things I've been going through with some of the Commanders fans when we get to Commanders talk with the draft, because some of them were upset. But it's the whole team. It's trying to think what's the word. It's the cycle of success. It's the cycle, the circle of life in the hockey world. You had a quality goaltender and a veteran and a young guy for so long that eventually that cycle is going to break. And right now that's where we are. So we've just got so used to that now it's like a shock to the system that, we have two inexperienced goalies going into the playoffs. So what are we going to do? But, like you said, you can get a goalie, can get hot, get locked in, and then take off. And the next thing you know, we saw that happen with Hobie. He had an up and down regular season, but when he got known was when he was in the playoffs. They didn't want to cover anything, but the way he was locked in and, playing well in those pressure situations, that would show them that, hey, he was the type of goalie that could take this team to the championship, and he did. So that's what it is, in my opinion.
Oh, man, there's some rivalries going on in the chat. So Carly Sings is a big Bruins fan, and in pops in Eddie Brown Music, who's a big Carolina fan. Carly says, go Bruins. And as she says that, Carolina scores their fourth goal of the game to give them a 4-1 lead. So I'm sorry, Carly. But Boston is probably not going to win this game. There's 3 minutes and 1 second left in the third period. But Eddie's probably getting the last laugh of that one right there in my Twitch chat. But that's one of the cool things, Carol, about doing Twitch chat versus, I love our Caps groups, but it's all going to be Caps fans that are on our Facebook feed. But here we got a lot of Bruins fans. We've got a lot of Carolina fans in the Twitch chat, and people that come through from all different parts of the country and world. So that was pretty funny that had happened, as that happened in my chat. Toronto is up 4-0 over Tampa Bay, which is a shock to me in that game. We'll get into those games in just a second, but one of these goalies has to take it. I mean, there's not a whole lot for us to say. I think our team is good, but our defense and goaltending needs to hold them to under 3 goals, 3 or less, and we got to find a way to put up 4. That's the only way we're going to beat this team, Carol.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, Florida is a high-powered offense. So for one, it's going to come down, because Florida's a heavy team also. They have a good forecheck game, and it's going to come down to the Capitals having possession in their zone, in the offensive zone. I saw in these past few games that they had no zone time. The other team was camped out in our defensive zone, on the offensive zone, but when it was time for the Caps to try to get something sustained, get the cycle game going or something, they just couldn't get it done. And like I said, 2 games against the Islanders, like I said, Trout know this team pretty well. Rangers, they played better, but we didn't see that pressure that we used to seeing when they get the other team tired, or they take a penalty, or they give up a goal because they're, passing the puck, and, retrieving the puck. They, making the other team make bad passes, trying to get rid of it because they get tired of getting hit against the boards. And that's what playoff Capitals hockey is, and that's what they're going to have to do against this Florida team. And because Florida's going to push back. Like I said, their ability to come back is well documented. I think they did like 30 comeback wins. So, I mean, you got to play fundamentally. You got to have the hustle in them. They know what it is. They know, what needs to be done. Well, some of the players know what needs to be done in the playoffs to get to the, ultimate goal. And, we've seen some of the young guys throughout the season have to get inserted into the lineup and be successful. So hopefully, that continues in the playoffs if they have to come in. And, some of the younger guys that's going to be on the ice. Did they already put the lines out yet? Or they normally they haven't even put anything?
Oh, I've been looking at these lines. I kind of wanted to go over this with you, so I'm happy. That's a good segue, Carol. We always are on the same wavelength. So here are the lines in today's morning skate in the random shuffle of his lines, because we don't have it finalized. And we talked about the goaltending, but that's not finalized either. So here we go. Ovi, Kuzi, Sherry, top line. Johansson, Backstrom, Wilson is second line. Mantha, Eller, Oshie, third line. Larson, Dowd, Hathaway is our fourth line. Pavari Carlson has been our top pairing all season. Orloff Jensen has been our second pairing all season. And TVR Schultz has been our third pairing. At least that's been decided. Those forward things have shuffled a lot. What are your thoughts on Ovi, Kuzi, Sherry? We'll talk top line first.
Ozy, Kuzi, Sherry. Well, they do need some speed on the top line. Florida is a fast team. I know
They're going. Yeah, I can't even pronounce these Florida players' names. I was gonna try to, but they're brutal. So I'm just not
like a physical guy on the top line. But yeah, you got Ovi. He can throw his weight around if needed. You know, you're gonna need that extra speed on the wing. Did I hear Mantha on the third line?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're adding some heaviness across from Oshie. He's kind of the opposite of the Wilson on the second line. The idea is he could grind a puck out, get it to Eller to get it to Oshie, you know? But I think that honestly, Mantha and Johansson are probably going to switch a lot. So that way it would be Mantha, Backstrom, Wilson, you know, that heavy line, and Johansson, Eller, Oshie, a faster line. But I think that you can kind of interchange those left wings a little bit. Just like you could interchange the right wings, I guess, also.
Toronto just scored their fifth goal against Tampa Bay on a crazy.
Carolina is winning 5-1, so it's 2-5 spots going on right now.
Vasilevsky, trying to see how this happened. Matthews, he went behind. Vasilevsky tried to.
Oh, yeah. You can't do that with Matthews on the ice. That's
he was Johnny on the spot right there, boy.
Oof. He's brutal. Matthews put up 100 points this season and 60 goals, you know, has not happened since Stamkos did it. And only him, Stamkos, and Ovi have broken the 60 goal plateau in recent history. So it's a rare company indeed.
The second goal tonight.
Yikes. So it's funny. People talk a lot of shit on Toronto, but yeah, because everyone's like, is it going to be their year? Is it not going to be their year or whatever? All right. So let's quickly go over the lines. You want Johansson down in the third line. What's your ideal pairings?
I mean, you said Backstrom, Johansson, and Oshie on the second.
Well, Wilson
on the Wilson, Backy, and Mojo. I can see that. And then third line, Eller, Mantha, and Oshie.
Yep. I think that third line could do some damage.
Yeah, that's an interesting line.
Right, because I think that's what they have to rely on is the third line to do some scoring.
Yeah, you definitely want to need secondary scoring to go for the top.
Because remember, that's what happened. That's what on our 2018 run, we needed that line, you know, for us at the time, Eller sparked that third line as well, but, you know, I don't know.
I do kind of like that. Because with the fourth line with Dowd, Hathaway, and
Larson, that's a great defensive line. I mean, they're going to use that to try to, shut down some of these top, really high-powered offensive lines.
And then you have I kind of like that. I kind of like the whole lineup from the top line to the bottom because you got speed at the top, then you got the skill and physical on the second.
And you got a physical player on every line then. You know, like, I mean, Ovi could be your physical player on the top line. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean,
him more focused on scoring.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying if you needed it, like, people forget how large
the issue with Sherry and Kuzi, with Ovi being out there, depending on if he put Orloff out there with that pairing. I feel better with Orloff than Carlson. I don't see him really dropping the class. I can see Orloff.
No, I think the Orloff Jensen defensive pairing makes sense with our top line, and then the Favari Carlson with the Johansson Backstrom Wilson line.
Yeah,
I think it could be okay. I don't know. It's been mixed up.
The matchup with Florida. I kind of like that line. If they go with that, I wouldn't be mad.
Okay. I'm in agreement. I think it's fine. And I think you could drop Sherry down and Oshie up to the top line if you need to. And then add Sherry, Mantha, Eller as a third line. So that could be a quick switch if you need a spark, you know? So, all right, other matchups real fast because I know you want to get football. And it's already 9:50, but we can talk sports for hours.
Hey, man, this is NBA NHL playoffs. Like I said, draft. I just got, we got 8 players. I'm going to name the undrafted free agents and get the baseball and we get the NBA playoff. It's playoff time. What we do.
Yeah. All right, let's get into these hockey matchups. Let me let my dog in for one quick second, but I'm going to give you a matchup to talk about, and then I'll let her in while you talk about it. So let's talk. I mean, we'll let you start Penguins and Rangers, and I'll be right back.
All right, Penguins, Rangers. I don't like neither one of these teams. Let's see, season series. I'm trying to look that up. Change graph. Oh well. New York and Pittsburgh. This is going to be an interesting matchup. The Rangers definitely, I wasn't expecting them to be the offensive team they were during the regular season. 50 goal scorer, Kreider, career high for him. A lot were on the power play, which you don't normally see a lot of those in the playoffs. Pittsburgh had an up and down year. They had a lot of injuries at the beginning of the year. They have some goalie issues. I believe one of their goalies is still injured. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I don't even know who I would take in this one because the Rangers definitely have solid goaltending, and we know they can score offensively, and they're more physical after they added some of the players that they added after the Tom Wilson incident 2 years ago. But I guess I got to get it to the Rangers.
I am also picking the Rangers, and I'm excited because a Rangers fan actually just entered our Zoom chat, but I won't. He asked not to come on, so I'm not gonna make him come on the spot. I know that you have a football segment in between, so but I'm excited. I'm actually
in the Toronto Tampa Bay game. Something going on with Wayne Simmons.
Oh yeah, there's a big fight over there.
Yeah, Simmons. They was getting Simmons away from the rush, and the next thing I know, fight broke out with Perry and
yeah, I missed the start of that. I kind of want to rewind that fight. That looked like a good fight. And so it starts with the Blues Minnesota series is happening right now on ESPN. I do like that they're on ESPN and ESPN2 because I have both games on, which is nice. Sandy Ray says, I'm a Rangers fan, but I haven't watched in years. Kreider is the only one I still know. And I will say from Facebook chat, since he doesn't want to come on, he says that we're smart guys to pick the Rangers. So he at least likes that we're picking them. So I will always root against the Penguins, no matter who the team is. It's pretty much straightforward. So even we know I don't love the Rangers, but I'm rooting for them very, very, very hard. And honestly, for Brian, I'll root for them to come out of the Eastern on that side. I wouldn't mind getting a rematch of the Rangers if we were to make it to the Eastern Conference Final. That would make a really exciting Eastern Conference Final. It'd be the only way that we play a Metro team. So I wouldn't be upset with that because especially after what Carolina did to us a couple of years ago and Boston did to us last year, right? So either of those teams play the Rangers, I'd probably root for the Rangers over them. And especially if they thwarted the Penguins in the first round, then definitely. So that's at least who I'd want to win. I don't.
Shurkin is going to be the X factor. If he plays like he did during the regular season, I think he can handle.
Oh yeah, I hope he can. I mean, that he had an incredible regular season, one of the best we've seen by a goalie in a very long time. So, all right. So other matchups, real quick. This Carolina Boston thing. Do you think it will go true to form? Do you think Carolina will take this game one win and run with it, or do you think it's gonna be a close series? What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to probably go 6. Boston, they got hot during the season too. They have the ability to score when they get home. They're a different team at home than on the road. Carolina's been a dominant team at home. Geez, we already getting some fisticuffs in the St. Louis, Minnesota game, boys. It's going to be an interesting playoffs, boy. We got
oh shit! And there's no fighting now happening in this. What is it now? It's a whole line brawl. Are you watching this? Oh yes, I love this shit. All right,
this is the first game of the playoffs.
This is gonna be great. Oh yeah, they don't even know.
They don't have to fight through the referee.
Yes, they are. And there's another fight going out at center right now that they're zoomed out on. Come on, zoom out the other fight. There's at least 3 fights going on now. There's fighting in this game. I love the NHL playoffs. This is what it's all about. I love live broadcasting during the. This is why we live broadcast
again.
Oh
Simmons
shit.
again.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Oh boy, yeah, boy, it's gonna be some good hockey, some good playoff hockey.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's that had,
Yeah, I know. I just saw that
I see
replay too.
blood. Yep, he drew blood. That was
Yeah.
straight to the nose. Oh man, yeah, that was a clean hit straight to the nose.
Oh Jesus, he is bloodied up. But like, good on them though, Tampa Bay. Why not throw some fight? I mean, you're not going to win this game, right? It's already beyond. But like, maybe you can get some momentum going forward. I love him just pulling the jersey over him and just making him look like a fucking fool. Oh, he just fucked him up.
Let's see if Wilson did.
I know it'd be a huge suspension. All right, there's roughing, and it's just roughing on the other game. This, one's a line brawl, and anyway, this is fucking hype. This is probably the best fight we've ever had live on a podcast, I think. So
wow. Yeah,
that was cool.
Very interesting.
This is why I'm sorry to the NBA playoffs. There is an NBA playoff game going. I do have Tim watching that, and he'll break that down when we get to it. But if there's hockey playoffs, it's going on both TVs, and I only have 3 monitors behind me. So Tim will have to give us the NBA update. But these are some great hockey games for sure. All right, this Toronto Tampa Bay one. Why don't we just talk about that series real quickly? Right now, Toronto's up 5-0, 9:51 left in the third. So there's still 10 minutes for Toronto to pour more on Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay is the 2-time defending champions, and they walloped Toronto a couple of weeks ago. And I think that Toronto remembered that, and they are paying it forward. What are your thoughts on this Toronto Tampa Bay series? It's about to get very spicy. It's a good command right there.
Very interesting because the game late in the season when Tampa Bay was putting on, and that game got physical too. So, like you said, they remembered that, and they're carrying that over. We've known about the Toronto lackluster playoffs, and I guess they're looking to prove a point. And this one might go 7.
Yeah, I have no idea who to pick here. It's hard for me to ever pick Toronto because they have such a horrible playoff history in the last couple of years. And then on the other side, you have Tampa Bay, who are the 2-time defending champions. How do you pick against them? I'm going to go Toronto in 7, finally breaking the curse, but it's going to go the distance, I think.
Yeah. Toronto. I don't want to see Tampa with a chance to three-peat. I don't want to hear that.
Right. Although we did pretty well against Tampa Bay in 2018.
Yeah, that was a great series. 2 shutouts to end it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. Both these teams will be a tough out in the next round. I mean, we can't look past Florida. I mean, Florida's the number 1 team, but all 8 teams in the Eastern Conference could win it all this year. I really feel that way. And I don't know if I feel that way about the West, but I really do feel that way about the East. Like it's brutal over there. So anyway, let's see. I'm just pulling up the bracket right here. So we've already broken down our series, the Toronto, Tampa Bay, the Carolina. We've broken them all down. So you think Carolina is going to beat Boston, right? You had that? Yeah. And all right. So we're breaking down all the Eastern Conference. Let's do the West real fast. Colorado is against Nashville, right? Minnesota is against Dallas. St. Louis. Minnesota is in St. Louis. Yeah, Minnesota, St. Louis, Colorado, and it's Nashville, right? Yeah. And
St. Louis has just scored to make it 1-0 over Minnesota with 13:53 left in the first. There's a
Dallas versus Calgary. Okay, it's the other one. All right.
Bad rebound control off the blocker and
short side again. We talk about that
right there.
Put it right back.
Yeah. And look like Toronto has a 4-minute power play.
That's pretty amazing. I don't have any heartbreak for Tampa Bay, and Toronto's gone through so much, and I've always been a big Steve Dangle fan, and he's gone through so much freaking heartbreak with that team. Like, I wouldn't mind them at least getting out of 1 round. Like, it's just brutal. I don't know, but all right, let's go to these Western ones. We'll start off with we'll start off with this Minnesota Blues game since it's happening right now. What are your thoughts on that series?
Minnesota made the move, picking up Marc-Andre Fleury, looking to make a nice playoff run. St. Louis, they won the cup a year after the Capitals won it, so they still have a lot of talent on their squad. It's going to definitely come down to goaltending, and I guess I'm going to give St. Louis the edge just because Minnesota, with that late season acquisition of Fleury, I don't think they have the chemistry or the rhythm in front of him that they'll need in the playoffs. And St. Louis had that core together for a while, so I'm going to give St. Louis the edge.
Yeah. Minnesota's been really good this year.
Toronto almost scored again.
I'm gonna go with Minnesota. I don't know. I just feel like they entered the postseason, winning the last 2 games where St. Louis lost last 2, and it was a difference of the home ice between them, and I don't know. They just seem to be going in the correct direction. But I mean, St. Louis is winning this game, so if this holds form, then obviously breaking serve is really good. There's a penalty being called in that game to a St. Louis Blue, so this might be a good chance for the Wild to tie the game up. There's 1:45 left in the power play on my screen for Toronto and Tampa Bay. Toronto is on the power play up 5-0. Yeah, I'm gonna go Minnesota in that one in a 6-game series. But that's assuming that they can come back in this game. If not, then maybe not. Maybe it's the other way around. Colorado versus Nashville. Is that right? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that series?
On paper, and everyone's taking say Colorado should pretty much handle Nashville no problem. Colorado's another young team, offensively skilled, but no real playoff experience or playoff luck. Nashville is a grinded out defensive team. We saw the Capitals handle Colorado a few weeks ago when they were actually playing well, and Colorado was playing well, the top home team, the top road team. And we saw they were able to get shut down by being physical, getting into the passing lanes, and solid goaltending and defense. So I'm going to actually predict the Nashville upset this series.
All right. You think Nashville's going to beat Colorado? I can't see it. Colorado's so good. I'm sorry. I think it's going to maybe go 7, but I think Colorado's going to win. Let's talk about the other game. That's the other number 1 seed. Calgary, who's also been a really good team, versus Dallas, who was kind of limping in at some points at the end there. They've got some injuries. I don't even think Holtby is playing for them. I think he's been injured. What are your thoughts on the Dallas versus Calgary?
I'm going with Calgary. Up in the Saddle Dome, they're another team at home. It's hard to keep up with that team. They just play a different game. And like you said, Dallas lived into the playoffs. They've had inconsistent goaltending all season. And I'm going to give the edge to Calgary. I think they're going to be able to hold serve and take this series.
Yeah, I think Calgary is going to take this series as well. They've been really good. We saw them a couple times this season, and they are a dangerous team. And we also saw Dallas a few times. I didn't feel like Dallas was that scary, but I felt like Calgary is a really solid team when I saw it. So, holy shit. I asked my mod Carly. So I pay my mods in Pokemon dollars in chat. And because she's 55,000. I've never seen that high of a number before in my life. So that's incredible. But anyway, so thank you, Carly, it shows how often she's been in my chat helping us out. So thank you for that. Anyways, I have Calgary. The last matchup is Edmonton and Los Angeles. That game is coming up a little bit later tonight, actually, 10 o'clock. Actually, that game goes live now. What channel? Well, I don't have another TV, so I guess I'll have to watch these games until it's over. So after the Tampa Bay Toronto game on ESPN or ESPN2 or whatever channel this is, it'll flip over to that other game.
Go ahead and switch it. This game is over.
They should, but I think that they want to see if there's more fights. I don't know. Plus, they have ESPN Plus, so people can watch it. And I'm sure I haven't checked it, but ESPN has 1 million channels. My guess is it's on another one of their 1 million channels. As they have ESPN News, and anyway, I'm sure the SEC channel isn't doing a whole lot right now. The Kings Oilers. It's going to be an interesting matchup. The Oilers have been really good. And the Kings and Oilers met 4 times this season, with the Kings winning the first game in Edmonton and Oilers taking the last 3, including both games in Los Angeles. So I thought that was an interesting stat. I'm rooting for Edmonton. I'm a big Oilers fan, so it's pretty easy for me over the Kings. But I know that there's a lot of people, including friends of mine on Twitch chat, that do like the LA Kings. Davey, I know, likes them. I think Edmonton will handle their business here in 6, maybe. I don't know. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Edmonton's going to advance to the next round. They definitely have offensive firepower. Their only issue is, playing solid defense and, not giving up multiple goal leads. I'm going to go with Edmonton, but if LA finds a way to win this series, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So, all right. So, wait, you have Edmonton and how much?
If Edmonton pull it off, I'm gonna say 7, just because they don't know how to hold the lead. They score a lot, but they also give up a lot.
Interesting. I think that'd be a great matchup. I think all of these are a fantastic series. I really highly recommend anyone who doesn't follow hockey. You can turn on ESPN or TNT any given night, and there's going to be a good game on, even if you're not like a Caps fan like us. But the Caps do play tomorrow. I do have a fun announcement. All of the games are being done on NBC Sports Washington. Thank God for the first round. So all 7 games, and it's simulcasted on TNT or ESPN or whatever, ABC it is that day. But at least we locally can get our announcers, which I'm thankful for. After round 1, we lose them, sadly. But Sandy Ray says nothing beats playoff hockey. I agree. It's a great time of year. Even if you don't follow hockey, I feel like people should follow the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's why we talked about it for over an hour, even though our plan was 35 minutes. All right, champ. All right. I really love everyone in chat hyping it up. It's cool to see so many awesome people there. Anybody else have any last questions about hockey? Carl, any last thoughts before we move on, and I'll let you talk a little football?
No, just hopefully we see a good team come out there that's focused, ready, and playing solid defense, playing 200 feet, and knows what time it is. Know it's time, playoff time. Whatever happened in the regular season is over now. Whatever injuries, whatever issues, it don't make a difference. It's you got 4 rounds, you got to win them all, and get the ultimate prize. So they know what to do, and just hopefully they come out ready, looking to do some damage.
Yeah. We're all talking in Twitch chat about Sandy Ray says it's like everyone moves at 125% speed in the hockey playoffs. It's crazy. Like it's just like it's already the fastest sport in North America, and it just gets that much faster. I feel like everyone's amped up, and it just looks like everyone's, the adrenaline's so high, all the stakes are so high. It's pretty amazing to watch. I mean, I think it's the best playoffs in all of the sports, and I love like the NFL playoffs and I love the NBA playoffs, but for me, like the intensity level, there's nothing like it. So, and I really highly recommend, I know it's so hard to get tickets to, but everyone should try to get to one playoff game in their life. Like the energy in those arenas, like it's like you're going to a rock concert times 10, but it's just ravenous hockey fans. And like a goal makes the place explode higher than any song I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of music at the Capital One Arena, and I swear the decibels get louder when the Capitals score an important playoff goal. So, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I haven't been to a playoff game in a while. I would definitely love to experience that again. I went when I was a kid, and that's what got me hooked on hockey back in the day. And
same thing. And my dad took me to game 4 of 98 Cup, and I've been hooked ever since, even though we lost that game and got swept, I still was hooked ever since, just watching that moment, watching the guy wheeled out in a wheelchair and, the cup being hoisted and all of their fans that were wearing red and how good the Detroit Red Wings were in the 90s. It was an amazing moment to be a part of, even if it wasn't my team, but it's still top 5 games I've ever gone to, Carol, and it was a loss, which says something right there. And but yeah, well, I hope people enjoy that. I'm going to let you talk a little football. I'm going to have a little bit of a pizza break, and I'll be back. I'll let you talk that. I know that you can bring Brian in for baseball talk. I'll leave my camera on, but I'll continue to chat with Twitch chat on my phone on the pizza break. But I appreciate everyone joining us for a hockey talk. And Carol, let's give our thoughts on the NFL draft.
No doubt, no doubt. As all folks know, the 2022 NFL draft was this past weekend, started on Thursday and ended on Saturday. Washington went into it with 6 draft picks and made a couple of trades and ended up with 8 players that they drafted. First round, they moved back from number 11 to number 16, picked the wide receiver Johan Dotson out of Penn State. There's a lot of folks that felt like the Washington Commanders reached that the other wide receivers on the board that they felt should have went ahead of Dotson. They felt like he was maybe a late first, early second. But after watching the limited film on this guy, he has great hands. He works well in space. He's a playmaker. You get him in open space and with blockers, and he reads his blocks very well. He did some bubble screens. He did some direct snaps coming out the backfield in the red zone. He's a punt returner also. He only believe he dropped 5% of catchable balls in his whole college career. So he's sure-handed. He can play inside, play outside, and he's definitely a playmaker. Just looking at him, if he develops and everything goes well, he reminds me of a Tyreek Hill, maybe a Deshaun Jackson, smaller, but shifty, and you give him the ball in open space, on a 5-yard screen, they can turn it into an 80-yard touchdown if things, make players miss, elusive, quick, and breakaway speed. So now you have 3 receivers with 4.4 or quicker speed. You have a running back with 4.4 speed. Yeah, this offense is going to be pretty fast if they get him in space. Then you got a quarterback in Carson Wentz who gets rid of the ball quickly, can read defenses, and doesn't have a problem throwing up receivers open. So it's looking to be a very interesting mix, and hopefully if this draft pick shows Terry that we're looking to give him some help, and we'll hopefully go a long way in to get him to re-sign, because we definitely need him to re-sign, and I only want to touch in the free agent market when that time comes. Hopefully that time doesn't come. Second round pick, which they considered another reach for the Washington Commanders, defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis out of Alabama. A lot of folks questioned the move. Sort of reports came out a couple of weeks ago, last week, I believe, Ron Payne, they said they would not be pursuing to re-sign him, so he'll be walking. Manny Unitas was a salary cap casualty after they picked up Carson Wentz. Tim Settle went to Buffalo via free agency, so this move wasn't unnecessary move, but you have to continue to add depth. And with him being a second round pick, you're not getting that first round money. You have 4 first-round picks on the defensive line. You're not going to be able to re-sign all of those guys just because of the salary cap. So unfortunately, some of them are going to walk. DC sports media broke the news that they weren't going to re-sign them, so now that kind of hurts their way of trying to trade them. Folks know you're already going to cut them, and genius sports media love putting that stuff out there. They wonder why the team can't get anything for players, because they're putting stuff out there that other teams know they're not going to trade for, but they're always going to not be re-signed. What's the point of trading for him and giving up something that you don't have to if he's going to be a player that you can sign without giving up anything later on in the year? So that's why that move was made. Folks are still complaining about it. Well, if he wouldn't have signed Wentz with his $28 million contract, he wouldn't have had this, yada, yada, yada. It's about looking forward, not looking backwards. Third round pick, running back, Brian Robinson, also out of Alabama. He physical runner, reminds me of Derrick Henry, yards after contact, and he does have speed there. When he does break the tackles, once he gets going, you're not catching him from behind. He's definitely going to be a compliment to Antonio Gibson. He's a more physical downhill runner, great for the red zone. We had couple of times last year. Needed that tough yard. Didn't have anyone that was able to, square them shoulder pads and bowl somebody over. Yeah, this guy, he can definitely do that. 4th round pick, safety, Percy Butler out of Louisiana. Looking at tape on him, he's a physical safety. He doesn't mind coming up on a run. He's truly a free safety. So he has good range, but he can also fill that hybrid role where he can play in the box if you need him to, because like I said, he's physical. Definitely has a good upside, especially with it being a 4th round pick. We got Cam Carroll and Bobby McCain re-signed via free agency for the safety combination, but I think Butler's definitely going to get some go. He also special teams demon, so a lot of fans are going to be happy that most likely that means Troy Apke will be no longer with the team because he was basically there for special teams capabilities, and now they have this young guy that's looking to come in and do the same thing in the gunner position. So there's going to be a lot of happy Commanders fans that probably most likely Troy Apke won't be on the team just because of this rookie that is drafted. Round 5 was the steal of the draft, and a lot of folks' opinion and supposedly saved the Commanders draft because it was such a good pick. They got the quarterback Sam Howell out of the University of North Carolina. He, before his talent got drafted to the pros in 2020, he was looking at to be one of the possibly 1st round pick, possibly number 1 pick because of his numbers that he was putting up, his athletic ability, his arm, his quality. He still has some developing to do. But when your 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs go to the NFL and you have a new core to work with, your numbers aren't going to look as good as they were when you had the people in there before. So he fell to the 5th round. A lot of folks were shocked by that. But looking at some of the film on him, he definitely reminds me of Taylor Heineke with a stronger arm and that can read defense a little bit better because he's had those quality receivers and, had a pro-style offense that he was working. So I wouldn't be surprised if this kid might, find his way onto the roster next year. If not this year, the knockers on with that he can't stay healthy. He's been healthy pretty much the last 3 out of 4 seasons. So it's a possibility, but that's why they give him a weapon so he can get the ball out of his hand quick and make it harder for him to get hit if the ball isn't in his hands. And everyone that's complaining, talking about the offensive line, this and that, he's going to get hurt because the offensive line sucks. I say this for the folks in the cheap seats and the folks that don't listen. The offensive line was ranked number 6 in the NFL according to Pro Football Focus. Even with all the injuries they had with the backups that played, they still were ranked number 6. So if they run the ball, have the quick passing game, and Wentz does what he's supposed to do, get rid of the ball when he needs to and not holding on to it, that's a good combination for him staying healthy all season. So just to put that out there. The 2nd, 5th round pick was a interesting pick. It was a tight end, Cole Turner out of Nevada. This dude is 6'6", so can you say red zone threat? That's been an issue for this team for a while, not having, a surefire way or a player that can go up and get it. Then, you need it. You throw that fade that ex-coach used to love calling all the time, but never had the proper receiver to call it. This guy right here, 6'6", great wingspan, catch radius. He's not going to, break any tackles and rumble down the field, but he has sure hands. He can go up and get the ball. And like I said, he has a great catch radius, so he could be a great complement to this offense, be the 2nd tight end with Logan Thomas on one side, him on the other. That's why I say the red zone. Yeah, that's definitely a threat. They didn't have a 6th round pick. 7th round, they picked up the offensive lineman, Chris Paul out of Tulsa. He can play guard. He can play tackle. He has good feet, quick feet, long arms. He stays engaged with his man. He good at pass protection and good at run blocking, good in space. Look like they're probably gonna put him at guard. We've seen that transition happen a couple of times where they come in as a tackle, but put him at guard and they work better on the inside than they do on the outside. So with the departure of Sheriff, he might be the next guy that's going to be the next stud to take that spot. Left guard, right guard. We'll see going down the line. But that was definitely a pick. Everybody was asking about offensive linemen. And Coach loves versatile offensive linemen that can play multiple positions and who fits into that mold. So it's definitely going to interesting to see him get in there and see what he can do. And last pick of the draft for the Washington Commanders, the second 7th round pick, is a defensive back, Christian Holmes, out of Oklahoma State. He is a physical corner. He comes up on a run very well. Pass breakups is a specialty of his. But he does intercept the ball. He does take it to the house. He had, I believe, 3 interceptions, 2 of them he returned for touchdowns. Had 17 pass breakups last year. Long guy, 6'1", 195 pounds. Definitely going to be an attribute to this defense. Nice physical, big corner. Still don't know what we have in some of the other corners we drafted last year. So it's going to be a very interesting training camp, and not even mentioning the undrafted free agents I'm about to go over. It looks like the Commanders signed 13 undrafted free agents. A lot of folks are complaining about them not drafting a linebacker. Cole Holcomb is now going to move to middle linebacker. Jamin Davis, who was drafted in the first round last year, is more likely moving to the outside, strong side or weak side. The benefit of his speed, sideline to sideline. So we'll see who they sign along with these undrafted free agents. We know Coach likes to wait to the end of free agency, right? But the end of training camp when their veterans, salary cap casualties or cut for a younger guy, and he, might bring in that linebacker, quality linebackers in. Also, you remember that veterans that have at least 6 years in the league, if you sign up before week 1, their contract is guaranteed throughout the length of the year. But if you sign them after week 1 and you cut them later on, you're not on the hook for their money. So that's another thing that goes into it also. Let's get into these undrafted free agents that they just signed today. They signed the cornerback, Devontae Cross, out of Virginia. Another cornerback, Josh Drayden, out of California. A wide receiver, Jaquez Ezzard, out of Sam Houston State. Safety, Farrar Gardner, out of Louisiana. I guess that was Percy Butler's running mate, because they both are from Louisiana. Tight end, Curtis Hodges, out of Arizona State. Quarterback, Cole Kelly, out of Southeast Louisiana. Wide receiver, Kyrick McGowan, out of Georgia Tech. Defensive end, Jacob Panusi, out of Michigan State. Another tight end, Armani Rogers, out of Ohio. Guard, Tyrese Robinson, out of Oklahoma. Cornerback, Devin Taylor, out of Bowling Green. Linebacker, Trey Walker, out of Idaho. And linebacker, Drew White, out of Notre Dame. So they've addressed the linebacker, a couple more wide receivers, a couple more tight ends, another safety, and another offensive lineman. So that's a total of 21 new, young, talented players that's going to be in training camp, looking to earn a spot on the roster or the practice squad, seeing where things go forward. Things are getting physical again in the St. Louis, Minnesota game. It's the end of the first. St. Louis is up 2-0, and right as the first period ended, we got some shenanigans and some tomfoolery going on in the corner before they cleared the ice for their first intermission. So yeah, it's going to be some feisty hockey playoffs, and I can't wait. And football season is going to be, OTAs is going to be around the corner before you know it. Quarterback camp and all of that good stuff. So yeah, can't wait for the NFL season to start and see what this Commanders team is going to do on their inaugural season. Third place schedule. They made some moves in free agency to fill up some holes. They made some moves in the draft to fill up some holes. And now let's see what happens with Coach, get them on the field and get them that playbook and see what this team can do going forward. And on that note, that's all of my Commanders talk. I guess if Brian is ready to come onto the scene, we can get ready to get into some MLB and Nationals talk. BrianB, what's going on, man, with the Yankees having the best record in the major leagues, man? How's it going sitting on top right now, man?
Just won their 10th straight game, too. I'm in a damn good mood, Carol. How are you doing?
Well, the Nats had a 2-4 week, so I'm not in a damn good mood, Brian. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, you beat the Giants. I mean, the Giants are a really good team, man. I mean, you beat them in their home ballpark, too. That's pretty good.
But we got swept
by the Marlins. Yeah.
At home for the first time since 2011.
Yeah, that's not ideal, obviously. But I mean, I still think it's good to bounce back in San Francisco. I mean, that's what I'd focus on this week.
True.
I mean,
it was
go to San Francisco and win 2 out of 3 is not easy at all. And I know San Francisco is dealing with some injuries. They talked about it a lot on the broadcast. I watched a little bit of the series, and they talked about it a lot on the broadcast. But still, I mean, to get 2 out of 3 against a good team, especially after they swept you in your home ballpark the weekend before, and really none of those games were even close. I'd say it's pretty good.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Try to look at the bright side, man.
Yeah, look at the bright side, man.
I try to, man. I try to. But these Nats have been frustrating. If the starting pitching, pitching well, and the bullpen blows up. If the starting pitching, starts out rocky, the bullpen locks it down and can't get no offense going. It's like, come on, can we get it all working at the same time?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but all right, let's get into this. Nats 8-16 team. In the last 10, they're 2-8. And last week they were 2-4. As I just mentioned, they were swept by the Miami Marlins at home. All 3 games were kind of close, real close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, not in baseball. All right, let's get into this debacle. First game was a 5-2 loss. Sammy Alcantara earned his second victory of the season. That puts him at 2-0. He went 6 innings, giving up 6 hits, 1 earned run with 5 strikeouts and 3 walks. Josiah Gray took the loss. That dropped him to 2-3. He went 5 2/3, giving up 7 hits, 4 runs with 10 strikeouts, but 3 walks. Anthony Bender earned his 3rd save of the season, going 1 inning, giving up no hits, no runs, no strikeouts or walks. The bottom of the 4th, Yadiel Hernandez had an RBI single. In the bottom of the 8th, Josh Bell had an RBI single to account for the 2 runs for the Nationals. This game, Alcantara was just, pitching his butt off. I don't think the Nats got a hit until like the 4th inning. And by then, they were already down and couldn't muster much offense to get things on the right track against this Miami team. Second game was a 2-1 loss. This one, was a good game. Came down to it late, and Marlins found a way to win. Pablo Lopez earned his 3rd victory of the season, going 6 innings, giving 3 hits, no runs, with 6 strikeouts and a walk. Eric Fetty took his 2nd loss of the year. That drops him to 1-2. He went 4 2/3, giving up 3 hits, 2 earned runs with 5 strikeouts and 3 walks. And Anthony Bender earned his 4th save, saving the games back to back. He went an inning and a 3rd, giving up 1 hit, no runs with a strikeout and no walks. And Nelson Cruz walked to account for the lone run, with the bases loaded to account for the lone run for the Nats, 2-1 with the loss. And the last game of the series was a 3-2 loss. Trevor Rogers earned the victory for the Marlins. That was his first of the year. That puts him at 1-3. He went 6 innings, giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run with 4 strikeouts and 2 walks. Patrick Corbin. Drops to 0-4, went 6 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 of those earned with 8 strikeouts and 2 walks. And Cole Sulser earned his 1st save of the season, going 1 1/3, giving up no hits, no runs with 2 strikeouts and a walk. Josh Bell had an RBI double in the bottom of the 1st, and Christian Hernandez had an RBI double in the bottom of the 5th to account for the 2 runs. Like I said, this is a disappointing series against the Marlins to get swept by them. They're right over top of them in Eastern NL East standings, and they had a chance to gain some leeway, but find a way to get swept by the Marlins at home. Patrick Corbin, this was a better start for him, but we saw last week he had a start where he went in 2/3 and gave up 7 hits and 7 runs. I don't know what's going on with him. He hasn't been right, in my opinion, since the World Series season. I don't mean to blame his kid, but ever since he's had a kid, his slider hasn't slid anymore, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the kid took it or he got too much drool on the ball.
Damn kid.
Yeah, the damn kid that messed up the man's slider. But yeah, this is a disappointing series, especially at home. Brian mentioned getting swept the weekend before by the Giants. I believe it was a 10-game homestand. I believe only won 2 games. So yeah, that's not really a good way to start off season or start off, being at home. Hopefully they can get things better. Like I said, we still don't have Strasburg, still don't have Ross. Hopefully they come back and can, stabilize this starting rotation, because the bullpen has been pretty lights out for the most part. They had a couple of slip-ups, but for the most part, they've been doing their job. You got to come to injuries, but yeah, they definitely got to do better, especially against the likes of teams like the Marlins. Did you check out any of this series, Brian, or what are your observations of this unfortunate sweep to the Marlins at home?
Yeah, I'll just add that the Mets have gotten off to a really great start in the NL East, but I feel like if the Mets hadn't gotten off to a great start, we'd be talking about this Florida team or this Miami team a little bit more than we are. They're actually in second place right now in the NL East, right behind the Mets. And they've been surprising so far this year. All 3 guys who pitched in this series for the Marlins are all young, and they can really throw the ball. Alcantara, you mentioned it in the first game. Like, he can really, he's a flamethrower. He can throw at the best of them. Lopez, you mentioned it. He's got an ERA. He's got a .39 ERA so far this season. So he's been a beast. He's 3-0 to start the season. And Rogers hasn't quite found his groove, but I remember last season he was really solid. He's a solid number 3 for that Miami team. And I really feel like if the Mets hadn't gotten off to this great start, I feel like more people would be talking about this Miami team in the NL East. They have been a pleasant surprise. But you mentioned it, Carol, disappointing homestand for the Nationals. I believe they only won 2 games in that Arizona series the week before this, and then they get swept by the Giants and swept by the Marlins. Very disappointing, especially at home early in the season. That really doesn't set a good tone. But yeah, I wouldn't sleep on this Marlins team. They've got some solid players. Jazz Chisholm is a player for them that really impressed me this season. They got some good guys on that Miami team.
I'm still upset we got swept by him, but it is what it is. Going into the homestand and then now on the road, travel to San Francisco, which has been a tough place to play for a long time. And they had a COVID situation. I believe 7 or 8 of their players were on the COVID list. So the Nationals definitely, showed out and showed up and showed out, because in this first game, they had a season high 22 hits and a season high 14 runs. They beat San Francisco 14-4. Adam Sanchez earned his first victory this season, going 1-1. I put him at 1-1. I'm sorry. He went 5 innings, giving him 6 hits, 3 runs with 4 strikeouts and no walks. Alex Wood took the loss. They dropped him to 2-1. He went 5 innings, giving him 8 hits, 5 runs, 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. Top of the first, Juan Soto hit a solo home run. Top of the second, Robles had an RBI single, and Escobar had an RBI single. Top of the third, Franco had an RBI double. Lane Thomas had an RBI single. And top of the sixth, when San Francisco was trying to find a way to get back in it, the Nets, pretty much closing it down. Christian had an RBI single. Cruz had a fielder's choice, and Josh Bell had an RBI single. And that was a good way to start the series. Second game, I forgot. Top of the 8th, Franco had an RBI single. Thomas had an RBI single. Robles had an RBI double, a 2-run RBI double. Well, 1-run RBI double with the error. And Escobar had an RBI single on the top of the 8th. That was the inning that, busted it open. Second game of the series was a 9-3 loss. Logan Webb earned the victory for San Francisco. That put him at 3-1. He went 6 innings, giving up 11 hits on 3 runs, 3 strikeouts in a walk. Joan Andone took the loss. That drops him to 1-4. He went 4 innings, giving 4 hits, 4 runs, 5 strikeouts, and 3 walks. Top of the third, Escobar had an RBI double. Christian Hernandez, had an RBI double, and then Josh Bell had an RBI single. And the top of the sixth, Robles had an RBI double. And the final game of this series, which was yesterday, the Nats prevailed 11-5. Josiah Gray earned his 3rd victory of the season. That puts him at 3-2. He went 6 innings, giving up 1 hit, no runs, 3 strikeouts, and 4 walks. Alex Cobb took the loss. That drops him to 1-1. He went 2/3 of an inning, giving up 4 hits, 5 runs, 1 of those earned, with no strikeouts and 3 walks. That was a crazy top of the first, which the Nats scored 5 runs, which pretty much knocked Alex Cobb out the game. It was a fielder's choice and a throwing error with Nelson Cruz that got in the first run. Yadier Hernandez had an RBI single. I can't remember his first name. I want to say Lucius. I don't know if it's Lucius. Lucius Fox.
Oh, it is. It's Lucius Fox. Yeah.
Lucius. Okay. I was just thinking. Never mind. That's another story. Lucius Fox got his first hit and RBI in the majors. He was on like a 0-for-19 slump to start his career, but he got his first hit and first RBI in the top of the first. Top of the sixth, he got another hit and ended up scoring on a wild pitch. I'm sorry. And Nelson Cruz had a sacrifice fly. Top of the seventh, Robles had an RBI single. They were up. San Francisco actually walked in. The Nats bullpen actually walked in a couple of runs for San Francisco and made this game a little bit closer. And the bottom of the seventh and the top of the eighth, Yadier Hernandez with the bases loaded hit a 3-run RBI double to put it out of reach for San Francisco. And a secured a victory in a series win against San Francisco to end this week 2-4, but 2 good wins over a quality opponent and 3 bad losses against an up-and-coming team. Still don't leave a good taste in my mouth, but like you said, you got to look at the good. They went into a tough place to play, won, and hopefully can use that to follow through the rest of this road trip. What are your takeaway from this series against the Giants, Brian?
Yeah, that first game was very impressive. That was the most runs the Nationals have scored all season, 14. Soto really set the tone with that bomb to center field in the first inning. I think that set the tone for that game and really the whole weekend. I actually was watching the game on Saturday, and they broke down the number of hits for the Nationals. Like you said, they had 22 hits in that game. I believe 17 of them were singles, 4 of them were doubles, and only 1 of them was a home run, and that was the Soto home run. So that was pretty impressive. They did it with a barrage of singles, it feels like, against the Giants. And then I watched a little bit of the last game too. I mean, you mentioned the 5 runs in the first inning. Like that knocked out Webb pretty good. And I kind of felt like when they gave up 5 runs in what was it? It was the 7th inning. They gave up 5 runs to the Giants. I kind of felt like, here the Nats go again. The bullpen's going to blow it again. But then, Yadier Hernandez had a really big hit in that 8th inning to clear the bases, to give them three additional runs to pad the lead and to really put the icing on the cake for this series. So I think this is, after an 8-game losing streak going into this series, this is pretty much exactly what the doctor ordered. A great start to a very long road trip. I know we're going to break down the upcoming games in just a second here, but definitely to go into San Francisco, win 2 out of 3, that's pretty good. Now, they have struggled against, teams that they should probably beat. You mentioned the Marlins. They lost the series to the Pirates as well. They do have series wins against the Braves. They have the series win against the Giants. Those are 2 playoff teams from last year. Braves obviously won the World Series. So that's good to have early on in the season.
Yeah, not the way I would have liked them to start, but, not too bad. 8 games under 500. Still early, still plenty of baseball to play on the 24 games. Still plenty of baseball left, And like you said, they're on a road trip now. They have a 6-game work week this week. They're off tonight. headed to Colorado, probably already in Colorado. They have a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3-game series. Tuesday is an 8:40 start. Wednesday is an 8:40 start. And Thursday is a 3:10 start. Those are all Eastern times. And then they're going to LA to go meet up with their good old buddy Tony Two Bags in LA versus the Angels. Friday is a 9:38 start. I guess somebody catching an Uber to the game, and that's the time of arrival. I don't know where 9:38 comes from. Saturday is a 9:07 start. I guess, somebody got a previous engagement. And Sunday is a 4:07 start. So on the West Coast, the end of the week, and in Colorado, and the thin air and the long ball. Currently, the Rockies are 13-9, which is fourth in the NL West. Hopefully, the Nats can keep the offense going on the road. They were struggling offensively at home, and were having errors, and starting pitching was going awry. But on this road trip, seems like everything they simplified and things started clicking. So I'm hopeful that they can keep this going and maybe win 2 out of 3, or maybe even sweep Colorado and keep the momentum going. And against LA with Mike Trout and damn
Ohtani.
Yeah, that hitting ass pitcher they got. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting series to see. Trout, he's been being Mike Trout, and Ohtani, he's already, he got like 3 home runs already, maybe more or something.
He's a beast.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. They can go 3-3. I'd be happy this week. They can go 4-2. I'd be ecstatic. What about you, Brian? What do you take on this week for the Nets?
Yeah, Colorado and the Angels are 2 teams that have gotten off to pretty good starts this season. Colorado is just in a really tough division with the Giants, the Dodgers, the Padres, all ahead of them in that division. So it's tough to really make up any ground for them, despite their good starts this year. Yeah, you mentioned it that they were really hitting this weekend, the Nats, and there's no place to continue to hit better than going to Colorado. I mean, the ball just flies there at Coors Field. So, they're hitting at the right time. They're going to the right place to continue hitting. I could definitely see them winning 2 out of 3 in Colorado. And then that Angels series is going to be tough. I guess this is the first time they've played Rendon since he left the team. So that'll be a nice reunion of sorts for Tony Two Bags. But yeah, you mentioned the Angels' big bats. Mike Trout is off to a great start this year. Ohtani he's just unbelievable. I mean, he turned me from a doubter and a little bit of a hater into a huge fan. I love what he does. I think it's great for the game. To do what to hit and to pitch like that is just outstanding. I'm not sure if he's going to be pitching against the Nationals in this series, but if he is, that he's going to be tough. It's a tough matchup. I think the best to hope for is I think I'd say a 3-3 week sounds about right for the Nationals here.
Yeah, that'll be a good 500 to be definitely a step in the right direction after the last couple of weeks and being under 500. So gotta get some, like you say, you gotta just win every day, win one every day. Appreciate you coming on for the Nats talk. Do a quick segue because the WNBA season has preseason has got underway, and I believe the Mystics have already played 2 games. They played 1 game on the 22nd. They lost to the Dream 88-69. And then they played on the 27th where they beat the Lynx 78-66. And I use that as a segue because, Brian, I was watching the Golden State-Memphis game yesterday.
Yeah, I saw your status.
And it was all okay. The first time I saw some fugazi stuff going on. Jay Morant was getting back down, went down. It was a flop or a charge, called a charge. He was outside the box. But in my day, that would have been a no call. And then the exclamation point was when Draymond Green got ejected for, it was a foul, but I really can't even see how that was an ejection of offense. And the way the ref explained it, it was like it was a WWE wrestling move, is the way he smacked him and he yanked him down to the ground. And it's like he RKO'd him or something. Like it was a bang, bang play. Granted, he might have caught him in the face. I've seen plenty of NBA players get elbowed and nothing get called right in the jaw. So he caught him in the face and he caught his jersey, and it looked worse than it was. Like he was trying to keep him up by the jersey, but he was falling. He wasn't going to keep him up. So it looked like that he threw him down by his jersey. How can y'all consider this basketball, man? It's playoffs. That's what makes it even worse.
I just think this might have been a reputation thing with Draymond Green, because I agree with you. I don't think that's a flagrant 2. I don't think that's worthy of an ejection. I almost feel like that was like a reputation thing with Draymond. And we can bring everybody else in to talk about this too, because like I mean, we all watched this game yesterday, and I was looking forward to really talking about this game because it was, in my opinion, the best game of the playoffs so far between Memphis and Golden State. But you're right. I don't know if it warranted an ejection like that. I wonder if it was just like a reputation thing, because Draymond, you know, he's got a reputation of getting, you know, doing relatively dirty stuff like this in the past. So I wonder if they saw that and they were like, we got to throw him out of the game. We got to set a precedent. I mean, this is the guy who got suspended in the NBA Finals in 2016 and it really cost his team a game. So I wonder if they saw that it was Draymond and they were like that. But I agree. When I saw that in action, I was like, I was a little confused as to why they were throwing him out of the game. I thought it was funny. He was running. He ran down the tunnel, hyping up the crowd, which I mean, we gotta love Draymond, but I don't know if that's an ejection, Carol. I agree with you there.
I just got one thing to say before I get out of here. Soft. Y'all enjoy y'all round table. I'm gonna sit back and listen to y'all break down these games. Turn your mic on, Robbie.
Yeah, I just realized. It wouldn't be a show. It's it's a throwback, right? Thank you, Carol, for that awesome baseball and football talk while I got to eat my pizza. I appreciate that. And I was chatting with Twitch chat. We talked about a ton of different topics, so that was kind of fun that I got to do that. Welcome Tim in, and I think Arun is also on the line somewhere as well. And there he is. And Tim, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. I decided to wear this Wizard shirt in honor of you guys for the NBA segment.
Nice. I appreciate that. I am still sporting my Mantha Ray. I'm hoping he has a great week ahead. And Arun, how are you doing tonight?
Not bad. Wearing my Villanova shirt, but I guess I'm missing the champ on these segments, I guess, with our 50-win seasons projection.
Right, that's true. I think Champ's still actually in chat moderating. There he is. He actually just did the Wiz Talk command. So we do miss Champ talking about the playoffs, but I understand he's disappointed that the Wizards didn't make it and is busy with his wrestling podcast. But definitely I'll give a shout out to Champ again. But go check out the True No Spots podcast for all your wrestling updates. So let me just see if I can share my screen real quick. And we're going to do it a little bit different than we did last week. But I'll sort of explain how I've got it set up. Just give me 1 second to do one little thing. And all right, so now I've got all four of you guys up next to the stats. We're going to go through the week that was for the NBA playoffs and kind of just break it down because a lot of them were interesting series that Arun and I broke down last week all the way up until Monday. We did talk about the Raptors beating the 76ers and taking a 3-2 lead. And then later that night, the Mavericks beat the Jazz 102-77. And we were talking about that game live as well to take a 3-2 lead. So let's start it off with the Heat and the Hawks. So the Heat win that series 97-94. I'll start with you, Brian. What were your thoughts on that game and the series overall?
Oh, yeah. I always thought Miami was going to win this series pretty easily. I didn't really believe in the Hawks too much this year. And they got pretty much, other than a big game 3, which got them to win, other than that, they got pretty much nothing from their star, Trae Young. In fact, he got outscored by Kevin Knox in 2 games in this series for the Hawks, which is, this is supposed to be Ice Trae. He's supposed to be one of the most clutch players in the NBA, and he's getting outscored by Kevin Knox in the playoffs. It's not a great look for him. But, yeah, this Heat team, I always felt like they're better. I mean, we saw it tonight against the Sixers. They absolutely crushed them. I always believe that, they are a really strong team, and they really, other than game 3 when Trae hit the game winner, I never really felt like the series was in doubt too much for Miami.
Yeah. Tim, what are your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, just Miami. They defended Trae Young really well, and he had more turnovers, I think, than made field goals in the series, which is crazy for him. He really just didn't play very well overall. And Atlanta has a great home crowd, and they almost they had an opportunity to tie up the series 2-2, but that game 4 I thought was just the pivotal game of this series because Atlanta came out with kind of a little burst in the beginning, but Miami just dominated that game and then won a close game 5. So to me, that was the turning point. And this really sets up nicely for Miami because they get to play Philly shorthanded. So Miami has a lot of experience in the playoffs, and I think they could go far this year.
I agree. Arun, any final thoughts on this series? And we talked about it a bit last week.
Yeah, Trae Young, 7 turnovers, 2 of 12 from the field. Atlanta only hit 8 out of 24 threes or something like that in a pretty close loss in game 5. But I think Miami didn't even play Kyle Lowry, so I don't even think the series would have been close. I think Lowry would have played if they needed him to play, and Miami just dominated Atlanta for most of the series.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the next one. Sorry, Neville is having a field day with one of the baby toys here. So Timberwolves play the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies take a 3-2 lead with a 2-point victory over the Timberwolves. I'll start with Brian again. What were your thoughts on this game and series up until this point?
Yeah, this was the best game of the series. Actually, I don't even know whether to say this was the best game of the series because this was actually, in terms of this first round, I know none of the series went to 7. I thought this was probably the best series of the bunch, honestly. You had the Timberwolves really, I think, blew a big chance to win this series. I believe they blew 3 double-digit leads in this series, and I believe this was one of the games where they blew a double-digit lead. And they had a chance. This game was back and forth. Anthony Edwards hit a big shot to tie the game, and then Ja Morant hit the layup, the running layup to give Memphis the win in a really dramatic fashion on their home floor. And then they just didn't look back in the next game. This was I really love this series. I watched as much of this series as I possibly could. These are 2 really young, exciting teams in the NBA. And this was, in my opinion, I think the best game of the series.
Tim, what are your thoughts on this game in the series?
Yeah, I agree. I think this was my favorite first round series. A lot of people thought it wouldn't be this close, but part of the crazy thing about this series was I think pretty much every game could have gone either way. And even though Brian mentioned the Wolves choked a lot, like Memphis also blew a lot of leads, and it's just a lot of really good but kind of stupid young players out there at the end. Just some crazy bad shots in crunch time in this series. Even I think it was game 6. Both teams like Cat and Morant took terrible threes like with under 2 minutes left and just bad possessions. So although the series were really competitive, really high competitive games. I just think just some ugly plays at the end too. And I just loved seeing Morant's dad and Cat's dad sitting courtside every game and just kind of shit talking each other. It was it made it a lot more fun, and it was all positive, so it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. Arun, any final thoughts on this game before we get into the next one?
Yeah, this is the every single game. Minnesota blew a double-digit lead to Memphis that they lost. So it's pretty fitting that they lost this one. Again, this was the game where Ja Morant hit the crazy layup, I believe, and he scored 13 of the last points by Memphis, and that outscored D'Angelo Russell's 12 points for the entire game. Towns with 28, Edwards with 22, but Minnesota blew another game in Memphis. I don't think many people, everyone's right. Nobody predicted that Minnesota would be in the series, but to blow a double-digit lead, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, to do it that many times. All right, let's move on to the Pelicans and the Suns. This game was a bit of a blowout by the Suns. I'm going to go in reverse order this time, so we'll start with Arun. What is your takeaways from this game?
Yeah, New Orleans tied the series previously 2-2, but Bridges and Paul led the way for 112-97 win. And it looked like Chris Paul had a rough game in game 4, and he bounced back. And Bridges played 47 minutes, which is pretty incredible. He's had 31 points, probably the best game of his pro career. And New Orleans just didn't seem to have the same effort that they did back in New Orleans.
Yeah. Tim, what are your thoughts on this one?
This series surprised me a little bit just because I know Phoenix had injuries, but it was pretty close. And one thing that really stands out to me is I know obviously this wasn't the last game and the Pelicans did lose, but they do have a great future. And if they can stay healthy, I think next year and the year after, they're going to be a really huge force. And I love seeing Alvarado play. He's a pesky little guy from the ACC, and he gets a ton of steals. He plays really fast and really tough defense. So it was kind of fun to play. And the Pelicans are not a team you see on national TV a ton, like at least when Zion's hurt. So it was good to see them kind of grow together. And I think they have a good coach too. So obviously Phoenix is going to go far though.
So I got a scoring update. Connor McDavid just had a really nice goal, 41.5 seconds left in the first period. LA Kings had taken a 2-0 lead in that game. So a big goal right before the end of the first period to try to regain some momentum. So they had some speed entering the zone. He just kind of deked around 3 people and just shot it. And just an incredible goal from an incredible goal scorer. And I know we're talking NBA playoffs, but these hockey playoffs have been incredible so far. The Blues are up 2-0 in their game. But yeah, it's for me, the Suns kind of finally showed up and why they were the better team. Brian, any final thoughts on this before we jump into the Bulls versus the Bucks game?
No, I agree with everything Tim said about the Pelicans having a bright future. If they can get Zion Williamson to commit, they definitely could go on a run for a number of years. They have definitely a lot of really young talent. They got off to a really horrible start this season, and they're able to turn it around, make the play-in, get through the play-in, and get to play this Phoenix Suns team and win 2 games off of them. I know Devin Booker was out for pretty much this entire series until Game 6, but that's still good for New Orleans. I think they'll definitely be back next year, but I'm still not too surprised. Phoenix won this series overall in 6 games.
Yeah. Let's just finish off the Bucks Bulls series. The Bucks won 116-100 on Wednesday. That finished that series off. Brian, what is your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, this series really, I'm a little surprised this series wasn't a sweep, to be honest. This was a mismatch from the start. The Bulls were dealing with a lot of injuries. And then Zach LaVine went into the COVID protocols, and what's his name? Caruso got hurt again for the Bulls. It's disappointing for Chicago. This was supposed to be a great year for them. They got off to a fantastic start, if you'll remember correctly. But in the second half, they really struggled against good teams. And obviously the Bucks are the defending NBA champions. So they're a pretty good team. And, they pretty much handled them with relative ease in this series, I thought. So, disappointing end to the Bulls season, but not too surprising to see the Bucks move on here.
Right. Tim, do you have anything to add on that series?
No, just I hate Grayson Allen, but he was great in this series, and the Bulls fans were booing him, and the Bulls just got annihilated in both home games, so it's kind of embarrassing for their fans.
Yeah, and Arun, final thoughts on this series?
Yeah, the last 3 games, the Bucks beat the Bulls by an average of 23 points, and as Brian mentioned, without Zach LaVine and Russo, and not to mention Lonzo Ball being out since January. The Bulls didn't really have a chance.
For sure. All right, let's get into the next game also on Wednesday. It was the Nuggets Warriors. Golden State, beating the Nuggets by just 4, but closing out a 4-1 series win there. Brian, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this win by the Warriors and overall in this series?
Yeah, Golden State, it's kind of funny. They didn't really have their optimal lineup for this whole series. Steph Curry came off the bench at times for the Warriors in the series. So, I mean, Klay Thompson had a big series. I mean, he's still been coming back from that injury. And Jordan Poole, who, in my opinion, no disrespect to Ja Morant, but I honestly thought Jordan Poole should have won the Most Improved Player award this season. He had a big series as well. For Golden State. Jokic is probably going to win MVP for Denver again, but it's another disappointing exit for Denver in the playoffs. They had injuries in their own right this season, but Golden State's just, really a great team, and we've seen it so far with them having the 1-0 lead over Memphis as well. So, yeah, I'm not too surprised. This was a gentleman's sweep for them. They won the first 3, they lost game 4, and then they won game 5.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, anything to add on this?
I think Denver was even lucky to have a seed this high. Like, Jokic had a great year, but they had a ton of injuries early in the season, and they still had a decent record and played pretty tough in this series. So, to even, make it to 5 games is kind of impressive, but they never really had a chance.
For sure. Arun, final thoughts on this series?
More competitive than I thought it was going to be. The last 3 games were decided by 5 points or less. But the Warriors pulled away in 2 of those 3 games. And I think Aaron Gordon gave Steph Curry some problems. They actually benched Jordan Poole down the stretch of this game, played Gary Payton III, and he was great for the Warriors, and they pulled out the close win. And Jokic had a great season, but the Warriors were too much.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the next game and series. The 76ers finishing off the Raptors 132-97. Philly won that 4-2. I'll start again with Brian. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, when Philly had a 3-0 lead and when they lost the next 2, I kind of thought, here we go again with Doc Rivers. He's blown 3-1 leads many times in his past. And I thought maybe he was going to have the ultimate choke and blow a 3-0 lead to this Raptors team. But they were able to come through in game. Not even the presence of the most influential rapper of all time sitting courtside could stop the 76ers in this game, as they just absolutely annihilated the Raptors in this one. It was a 25-point win for them easily. I watched a good portion of this game. Wasn't even that close from the start. Sixers really dominated. The only downside, though, was that Joel Embiid did get hurt towards the end of this game for the Sixers.
Again.
And so he's out for the first 2 games of at least of this Heat series, which the game 1 was already played tonight, and the Sixers lost. So that's a huge loss for the Sixers. Obviously, he's probably going to be top 2 in the MVP voting this season. So if he's out for any amount of time, that's just a huge loss. I don't know if James Harden and Tobias Harris and players like that can carry the Sixers the way that Joel Embiid can. So that's a huge loss. You wonder, this is something we can discuss. I don't know why Doc Rivers was still playing Joel Embiid at that point with the game pretty much decided. I think it's really risky of Doc to do that. He said it's because Toronto still had all their starters in, but I mean, Toronto was losing, so of course they're going to try and score as many points as they can. So, but you're up big, so why not take all? I don't know. I'm not going to question Doc Rivers, but didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. It's a huge loss for the 76ers, and they win the series, but definitely a big loss in Embiid.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, what are your thoughts?
I was just thinking that the 76ers were going to lose that game 6. I mean, they were only up by 1 at halftime, so it was a humongous blowout in the second half. But I guess Doc Rivers had a good halftime speech and then probably got Embiid hurt by playing him too long. I mean, the 76ers had to win this series. They're just so much more talented, and it is unfortunate that they lost their best player, but you know, they just seem to always have bad luck like this every year in the playoffs. So I don't know what it is with them, but they're not really taking advantage of all their talent.
Yeah, for sure. Arun, final thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I'm not really going to blame Doc Rivers for keeping Joel Embiid in that long, given that Doc Rivers and he's seen his teams the last couple of times blow big leads like this to the Hawks last year, Clippers blowing a big lead to the Dallas Mavericks. Back in 2014, the Thunder came back against this team. So it's just a couple more minutes. It's kind of a freak injury. The orbital bone. Embiid will be back, but even then he's playing with a torn thumb ligament. It's kind of playing after the fact coaching when injuries are just kind of freak accidents. And Embiid, he is injury prone after all, but it's just bad luck, and the 76ers just seem to have a lot of it lately.
So somebody from chat, actually a first-time chatter named Term, asked, so what are the thoughts on the Cavaliers this season? So I'll ask you guys real quickly that. Brian, what are your thoughts on the Cavaliers and how things ended up with them?
They had a great season, I thought. Honestly, they kind of reminded me a lot as a Knicks fan. This Cleveland team this year actually reminded me a lot of the Knicks team last season that had a great run, a great regular season. But unfortunately just fell a little bit short. This time for the Cavs, it was in the play-in. I think as long as they keep their core together, led by Jared Allen and Garland and Sexton and those guys, they should be good for a while in the East. The East is always up for grabs, but I think Cleveland's got a pretty solid team there.
All right, just to keep the ball moving because we've got a lot of games. I'm going to give Tim the final Suns game to break down real quickly for me.
Yeah, this was a really good game. The Pelicans had a great home crowd. They played really hard, but in the end, it was just way too much. Chris Paul, he set an NBA playoff record because he was like 14 for 14, which no one has ever done. Just played masterful point guard in this game, and it was fun to see because he just completely controlled this game, and he always makes the right move. And I just think he was the difference in this series because a lot of people were picking them to lose with their injuries, and they definitely could have lost the series. But that I think his performance is what people will remember about probably this whole series and definitely this game. Yeah.
Brian, what are some of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I agree. Chris Paul went absolutely off in this game. That's nice to see. And, as soon as I found out Devin Booker was going to come back for the Suns in this game, I had a chance. I'm looking at the stats right now in front of me here. And even though Devin Booker only had 13 points, I think just his presence on the court as one of the leaders of this Suns team. I know Chris Paul is pretty much the leader of the team, but that they look up to Devin Booker too. And to have him back out on the floor, I think was great too. Arun's guy Bridges had a big game as well, 18 points. Ayton's a monster as well, 22. This Suns team's legit. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him back in the NBA Finals again.
Arun, final thoughts on this series?
The Pelicans had a really good effort. It was down to a single possession game with a minute to go, and considering they were a 36-win team, that's incredible. They even had some bad calls go against them. Chris Paul elbowed Alvarado in the face in the fourth quarter a few minutes ago. They didn't call a foul, and they called a foul on him actually, which was pretty weird. And overall, Willie Green with a great coaching job. Brandon Ingram, he had a great season or a great closeout to the season. He missed a large portion of the season. CJ McCollum, I don't know, he wasn't that great. Larry Nance was actually played better in some stretches of the series than CJ McCollum. But overall, the Pelicans could have a bright future if Zion actually is healthy and meshes well with Brandon Ingram.
Yeah. A couple of new people just joined chat here. So somebody was wanting to know about Darius Garland.
He's a beast.
Yeah. Really good.
And then that same person was also saying he was surprised that the Cavs are comparable to the Knicks. He didn't understand that.
Well, I just mean like they kind of had like a surprise season, like what kind of how like the Knicks did last season. Like they kind of came out of nowhere, and they went on a bit of a run, but it just ultimately fell a little bit short for them. But I think they'll be back next season. I think they'll be good next season too.
Nice. Okay. Well, I appreciate all these new people asking basketball questions in Twitch chat. So it's kind of cool. And anyone I can ask questions on Facebook chat as well. Cool. They appreciated that answer. All right, let's get into. All right, anyone else have any final thoughts on this Suns one, or should we move on?
Move on.
Okay. And then the Mavericks Jazz, that was a really close final game. The Mavericks winning 98-96. I'll let Arun start with that one. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Utah's offense is pretty dreadful, even though it was a close game. I think Donovan Mitchell, he needs to be a lot better. He's outplayed by Jalen Brunson for most of the series, and but still Utah managed to keep it close. But Mike Conley had a bad turnover, and for the second game of the series, a former Wizard missed a 3-point shot. Bojan Bogdanovic had a chance to send this to a game 7, but he just came up short on a really good play call. And Dallas won 2 out of 3 without Luka. And I think Utah may have forced a game 7, but they probably would have lost at Dallas. So kudos to the Mavericks for coming through in the series.
Yeah, Tim, what are your thoughts on this game and series?
I'll talk about another former Wizard. I think Dinwiddie now with Brunson and Luka, they're all healthy and playing together. So I think they're going to be tough in their next series, although they may lose. But this was a really competitive series too. A lot of close games came down to the wire. A lot of road wins too. It'll be interesting to see what Utah does this offseason, because they've had some really strong regular seasons and not really done much in the playoffs. I think they were the 1 seed just like a year or 2 ago and didn't go far. So they need to kind of switch things up. Rudy Gobert is a great defender, but he doesn't provide a lot of offense. So I think they're going to make some changes, but we'll see what Dallas can do. Luka finally won a series, which is great.
I agree. Brian, final thoughts on this game and series?
Yeah, Luka Doncic was out for, I think, the first 3 games of this series for the Dallas Mavericks. And I felt like Utah really had a chance to take advantage in those 3 games, but they just didn't. And I think Tim alluded to it. I think there's going to be some big changes coming up for the Jazz this offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from one or both of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. Something to keep an eye on for sure. But, even without Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson really stepped up. That's another one of Arun's guys from Villanova, really stepped up for the Mavs in this series. Even when Luka came back, Jalen Brunson absolutely killed it this series. He's a free agent coming up this offseason. I think he's making himself some serious money this offseason, this playoffs. He's been great. Dinwiddie, ever since they got him, he seems to, I don't know, the trade must have woken him up, because he's been great ever since he went to the Mavericks. So this was definitely a good series win for the Mavericks. And yeah, keep an eye out for some changes coming up in Utah this offseason.
Sounds good. Everyone got their say on this one, right? And so we're going to the last of the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves, which is the last game of the first round. I'm going to start off with you, Brian. What was your take on this game and series and the end of the series? We're going to talk about.
Again, this was another game that Minnesota had a double-digit lead and ultimately lost. You got to give, like I said when we talked about the game before this, these are 2 really young, exciting teams that gave it their all. Minnesota has a lot to be proud of this season. I know they kind of got some shit for celebrating the play-in victory, and Karl Anthony Towns got a little bit of crap for after this game. He was like blowing kisses to the crowd and everything. And so, I mean, I get it. They're young. They'll learn from this victory. I don't know if they have the right coach, honestly. No disrespect to Chris Finch, but I don't know if he's really the right guy to lead a young team like this, especially with a talent like Anthony Edwards, who's just getting better and better. But yeah, Minnesota blew this series. They had a chance to win it for sure. But congrats to Memphis for moving on.
All right. I'll go to Tim next. What are your thoughts on this final game?
Just you don't want to lose your last quarter at home 40-22 to close out your season. It's not ideal, but just this was more of the same for the whole series. And I agree with Brian. I think both of these teams have a very bright future, and I like what's happening in the NBA's Western Conference because you have so many teams that were bad just like 2 to 3 years ago that are now all in the playoffs going far. And basically the standings in the Western Conference kind of flipped from 2 years ago because you have teams like, New Orleans, Minnesota, Memphis, Phoenix. These are teams that were bad for years and years. And it's just kind of cool to see some new faces and excite these fan bases because a lot of these teams, they have really good fan bases who are starving for these playoff games. So it's just kind of nice. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting take. I like that actually. And it is kind of exciting to see some like fresh blood and not be the same old teams over and over again. And I like that the East is kind of the powerhouses and the West is kind of, some of the sleeper teams. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen, in the finals when they meet. Arun, final thoughts on this game and series?
Yeah, again, only series in NBA history where a team has blown 4 double-digit leads, and Timberwolves were probably kicking themselves. Like they could have easily beaten the Grizzlies and come up with a big upset, but kudos to the Grizzlies for continuing their winning ways. I believe they've only lost 2 of their last 24 games coming into this one, so it's pretty crazy that the Timberwolves. I didn't even think the Timberwolves would be in the series, but I think Towns, he took some terrible threes down the stretch. He took a 35-foot three in one of their deciding possessions, and it just wasn't enough of smart play down the stretches of games in Memphis. John Morant didn't have a great series. He played like trash according to his dad, but they definitely all you got to do is win, and for a young team, that's pretty good for to just win this series.
Yeah. All right, let's move on into game 1 of the next round, the conference semifinals. Bucks Celtics. Bucks won 101-89 yesterday. I'll start with Brian once again. What was your takeaway on game 1 of this series?
Yeah, first off, I got to give a shout out to the Celtics for sweeping the Nets. That I really much enjoyed that. But I'm definitely rooting for Milwaukee in this series, and I thought the Celtics were going to take advantage of, Milwaukee being without Chris Middleton on their home floor. But like we saw the last time these two teams met in the playoffs a couple of years ago, they still have really no answer for Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's still just an absolute he had a triple-double in this game. He really shut the Celtics down, I thought, in this game. And this game, I honestly thought wasn't as close as the final scoreline indicated. Giannis is just amazing. The Celtics, their main shooters, Tatum and Jaylen Brown, actually struggled to start this game. You actually look at the numbers. Tatum shot 6 of 18 in this game. Brown only shot 4 of 13. They need to get more out of those two guys if they want any chance to win this series against this really good Milwaukee Bucks team. I really thought that the Celtics were going to have the Bucks number. Even Stephen A. Smith was saying at halftime of this first game, he was like, I picked the Celtics originally, but after one half, I'm thinking about changing my pick. And that's kind of how I felt too watching this first game. The Celtics did not seem to have any answer for Giannis, and if they continue to be like that, it's going to be a long series for them.
Yeah, Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
I'll just say, it was game 1. The Celtics had a little bit of a layoff, so I'm not going to say throw this game out because clearly the Bucks match up well against them, and Giannis was amazing. But I don't think the Celtics are definitely not going to shoot this badly again, and I think they could definitely turn it around. But just the Bucks didn't even have Middleton, and they won very easily. And just this crowd was like amped coming out, and the Celtics did have a good early first quarter performance. So they had a chance to take the game. They had all the energy, and the Bucks just completely stopped them. Holiday had a great game. So I guess I'm not convinced either way. I'm also rooting for the Bucks because I just don't like Boston sports, but I could see this go 6 or 7 for sure.
Yeah. Arun, any thoughts on game one in the series?
Yeah, the Celtics just had a lot of trouble scoring inside. Brook Lopez, he's been out for most of the season and he had back surgery, and it's good to see him in good health. And him and Giannis just are protecting the paint against Robert Williams and all the penetration from all the guards. I think a lot has been made of Kemba Walker's lack of defense, but I think they missed a shifty point guard like him in this kind of a game. And Marcus Smart also suffered a bad fall. It looked like he suffered a contusion. And I think Milwaukee, if Grayson Allen's going to outshoot Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum from 3, then it's going to be a short series. But I think the Celtics will probably rebound in game 2. Although if they don't, it'll be a very short series.
For sure. A little scoring updates. Minnesota just went on a power play. It's still very chippy. St. Louis is a 3-0 lead in that one with 27.9 seconds left in the second period. Edmonton is on the power play. They are one of the most deadly power play teams at home. They're down 2-1. It's 8-10 left. A great shot on goal right there. 53 seconds left on this Edmonton power play. They are taking a lot of good shots, and Edmonton looks like they're trying to regain some momentum in this game right here. So we'll see if they can tie this game up again. They're down 2-1. Oh, what an incredible save by Jonathan Quick, who has made some great saves all night. I mean, he just robbed them. I can't believe how good Quick is still playing. So those are little updates on some hockey talk. We've all given our thoughts on the Bucks Celtics. So let's move on to the Warriors Grizzlies. Warriors were able to win that one 117-116. I'll start off with Brian once again. What are your thoughts on game 1 in this series?
Yeah, like I said, I think like whenever we started this was the best game I think I've seen of the playoffs so far. These two teams are very evenly matched. Carol and I talked about it a little bit, but the Draymond Green suspension, I don't really know if that's a flagrant 2. I don't know if that's ejection worthy. It's a really tough call to make. I wonder if that was just a reputation thing with Draymond because he's had a history of stuff like this. But the fact that the Warriors were able to overcome that and win this game without Draymond Green on the road in a hostile environment in Memphis says a lot about that team. It says the Warriors are still good. Steph Curry had some big shots. Jordan Poole had 31 points for them. Klay Thompson hit the shot that gave them the lead in this game. Klay had a chance to ice this game from the free throw line, but he missed 2 free throws in a row. I feel bad for people who bet the line in this game because it was Warriors 2.5, and that would have given a lot of people some money if he had hit those 2 free throws. But he missed, and the Grizzlies had a chance to come down the other way and win the game. And Ja Morant had a similar play to what happened in Game 5 against the Timberwolves. He had a layup to run up and to get the game winner, but he missed it this time. Good defense by the Warriors, I thought, overall on that final play from Memphis, and they win Game 1 despite Draymond Green getting thrown out pretty early in this game. It was a great game. I really think this was the best game of the playoffs so far. I think it sets the tone for what will be a great series. I would not be shocked at all if the series goes 6 or 7 games between these two teams. And yeah, like I said, Ja Morant won the Most Improved Player of the Year award. He had 34 points in this game, but in my opinion, Jordan Poole was just as worthy of that award. And he had 31 in this game for Golden State and stepped up huge. He's been stepping up huge for them all playoffs for them. So this was a great, great start to the series.
Real quickly, a scoring update. Edmonton with just under 10 seconds left on that power play. I was talking about how deadly it is. A tip-in by Yamamoto ties the game at 2. So it's 16:43 to 2-2 game in a very exciting game between Edmonton and LA. I mean, that's how you're going to have to beat Quick, is with these tip-ins that are kind of hard to stop. But Quick is playing a phenomenal game tonight. Tim, your thoughts on the Warriors and the Grizzlies?
Yeah, just two things. I think number one, this is going to be a close series, probably, at least in terms of competitive games, but you just have to trust the Warriors in crunch time so much more. They just proved it yesterday, and they have so much more experience and a better coach. So I just think they will take this series. And number two, I think there was a terrible call that people didn't really talk about because it didn't change the outcome. But it was like with 30 seconds left, there was a missed shot, a rebound. Both teams went for it. It was unclear whose ball it was when it went out of bounds. And so they called a jump ball. But if you looked at the replay, it was clearly off. It was out on Memphis. And there was a jump ball, and Memphis got the tip and called a timeout. So if the refs had gotten that call correct, there wouldn't have been a shot to win the game at the end. So that would have been a huge call. I mean, I kind of understand why they called a jump ball there, but they already review everything anyway. Like, why not just get it right? So that was weird to me, but it didn't change the outcome. So I guess it's not a big deal.
So just a minute later, literally in the amount of time that Tim was talking, LA came back and scored a goal themselves. So they make it 3-2 in a very exciting game. And it looked like Edmonton was about to score on that play. And it was a blown coverage, a pass up the seam. A guy falls down. Another guy goes across the ice on a slant and then passes all the way back to the original wing, and then he shoots it the other way and gets a goal. Just an incredible shot, and deflating because Edmonton just tied it up. But this game is just going back and forth. Fire wagon hockey, we talked about before. They just go so much harder this time of year. So less than a minute later, they remain now up 3-2. But anyway, Arun, what are your thoughts on this series so far?
Yeah, like some very questionable calls. The bettors are very upset probably at this series. Draymond Green definitely did not deserve to be thrown out. I think that jersey grab, he didn't actively try to throw Brandon Clark to the ground. I guess you could argue there were 2 flagrant fouls on one play, but it just seemed like a very excessive penalty to throw him out of the game. Although I don't think the league was probably right not to reverse that call because Draymond Green pulled an Antonio Brown after he was ejected. So I think that just probably sealed the fate that they're not going to change the flagrant fouls. And if he gets 2 more flagrant ones, he'll be suspended a game just like he was in the 2016 NBA Finals. But it kind of helped unlock the Warriors' offense a bit because Jordan Poole actually started the second half and he finished with over 30 points. Steph and Clay weren't that great throughout the game, although Clay hit that huge 3. He missed the 2 free throws, as Brian mentioned. And yeah, Tim alluded to that. It was off Dylan Brooks, and it was kind of weird that they didn't review that play, which is just going to go with that conspiracy talk that perhaps the officials were influenced by the line of this game. But a great strip by on Ja Morant on the final play is kind of similar to Game 5 of the Timberwolves and a Grizzlies series where Ja Morant hit the game winner, but Klay Thompson actually touched the ball and it came out of his hands. That's why Klay Thompson was pumped up, not to mention that he wouldn't be blamed for missing those 2 free throws. And I think these games will all be really close, but I think the Warriors will probably should win this series, given that I think Memphis is just a little bit too young in these kinds of close games. I think the Warriors are a little bit better equipped, especially more so than the Minnesota Timberwolves.
For sure. So even more craziness happening. Edmonton almost scores, then LA almost scores, then it's a penalty on Edmonton. LA has got the power play. They're already a minute into this power play. They have a chance to go up 2 goals, but their power play is awful. And you can see why so far in the first minute, just 0 zone time. But they still have a 3-2 lead in a very exciting game. All right, let's get into the game that was earlier today, 76ers versus the Heat. The Heat win it 106-92, and kind of a surprising game in a lot of ways. Well, maybe not, but I thought 76ers could beat the Heat, but obviously with the injuries the 76ers have had, maybe that is a difference maker. We'll start off with Brian. What are your thoughts on this game one and series?
Yeah, it's worth noting that the Sixers are obviously without Embiid for this game, but the Heat were without Kyle Lowry as well, so a big loss for them. But this game was never really in doubt. I watched a good as much of this game as I could, and I never really felt like it was in doubt. The Heat really pulled away in the fourth quarter. They got a good team effort. Tyler Hero off the bench had 25 points. That's why he's going to win the sixth man of the year in the NBA. Bam Adebayo had a double-double, 24 points, 12 rebounds. Jimmy had 15. Just a good team effort all around from the Heat. And until Embiid comes back for the Sixers, I think it's going to be tough for them, despite just looking at the stats now, a good game from Tobias Harris, who had 27 points. I still think it's going to be tough for them to overcome this Miami team. They're very deep. Bam Adebayo is going to have his way with DeAndre Jordan if that's going to be the matchup until Embiid comes back, in my opinion. So I think the Heat will probably end up winning this series, in my opinion, unless Embiid comes back strong and just puts forth a superhuman effort. Probably 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, Tim, what are your thoughts on this game and series?
I agree with Brian. The one thing I will say is I thought the 76ers played pretty well until early third quarter. I mean, they were up by like 5, and then they blew their lead and never got it back. So they played pretty well, all things considering. They just need a lot more from James Harden. Like, he's been outplayed by Maxey, who's a really good young guard for them, like the whole playoffs, which is good for Maxey, but he needs to score 30, 40, 50 points a game without their best player to have a chance. So I want to see more from him, but I don't. This series won't go long unless Embiid comes back. He's not going to play the next game, I'm pretty sure, because he's not even in Miami, but maybe game 3, possibly.
Arun, what are your final thoughts on this series?
I thought this game was over after the first quarter, but Philadelphia made a nice run. And actually, in the first quarter, they went on a 12-0 run. In the second quarter, they held Miami to 20 points, which was really good. But then I think the key reason they lost this game was DeAndre Jordan is just awful as a center, and he started the game. He only played 17 minutes, and the Sixers were outscored by 22 points when he was on the floor. I don't know. I think Doc Rivers has a soft spot for him because he used to coach him on the Clippers when he was probably close to an all-star caliber player, but right now he's just simply washed. And because of that James Harden trade, they got rid of Andre Drummond and some key depth pieces, and it looks like that's going to cost them now. I will say that if Harden actually can get back to his MVP form, the Sixers have a shot, but he only scored 16 points, and it's been a long time since we've seen James Harden actually score more than even Maxey on this team. Harris had 27 points, but I think if 6 of 34 from three-point range isn't going to get it done, so that's one thing the Sixers could probably at least maybe they could steal a game or two, but without Embiid, it's going to be tough. But if he comes back in the series, is still within reach, I wouldn't rule them out completely.
Yeah. All right. So everyone's given their thoughts on this one. So the last game is the Maverick Suns game that's actually going on right now. I was trying to put that on one of my TVs. This game looks like it's going pretty well for the Phoenix Suns so far. I'll start off with Arun. What are your thoughts on this game that's in progress?
Yeah, Luka's been great. He already has 31 points midway through the third quarter, but Brunson and Dinwiddie have not. I believe they were scoreless at halftime, or Brunson had 2 points. Now he has 5, but Dinwiddie is scoreless. Actually, Bertans has 3 more points than Dinwiddie. It's definitely, I think Dallas is getting used to a much better team than Phoenix and Utah. So I think Phoenix should easily walk away with game 1. It'll be interesting to see how Dallas comes out of game 2. But Luka has been fantastic, and it's unfortunate that none of his teammates, other than Kleber, have double figures for Dallas.
Yeah, Tim, what are your takeaways so far on this game?
Yeah, just Phoenix did whatever it wanted on offense in the first half, and without Kleba's 5 3-pointers in the first half, Dallas might have been down by 20 or more. So they really, are lucky to even kind of be in this game right now. And I still think Dallas has a shot in this series, even if they lose this game, because it is kind of it's a tough matchup to play them. But we'll see. I do hope this one goes long. Definitely Phoenix you got to bet on them, but Dallas is tough, and they've got like a new look team, so
Yeah,
it should be a nice.
LA just took a penalty, so I'll put the powerful Edmonton power play back out there again on a tripping call, which was slightly questionable, but I think it's probably the right call. So, and then I've got the Dallas Phoenix game on now on the other TV as well. But it's been an interesting night for sports so far. Sorry, did I start with Arun or Brian? I keep on going opposite directions.
It's fine. You don't need to. I'm watching this game, but I'm like half paying attention. But I know Luka Doncic is like killing it. Like Arun said, 31 points. If he's going to need to have a superhuman effort to really carry Dallas in this series, I think ultimately the Phoenix Suns are probably the better team in this series, and I think they're going to win the series in probably 6 games.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we did it. We went through all the different series. So I appreciate you guys for helping me break it down. I'm going to just talk about the upcoming schedule. So game 2's Bucks Celtics tomorrow at 7. Tomorrow at 9:30 is the game 2 for the Warriors and the Grizzlies. And then game 2 for the 76ers and Heat is on Wednesday at 7:30. And the Mavericks Suns will be at 10. And then I'm just going to scroll through for people that are watching live, but you can obviously look up the schedule, and we'll break down all 4 series next week on how they're doing and give an update then on that. I will stop the screen share there. All right. Any final thoughts so far on how the NBA playoffs are going? I'll go to Arun first. What is your overall takeaway as we're sort of heading into and now in round 2?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess the favorites of the series are still the Warriors and the Suns in the West, and Milwaukee. I think a lot of people are writing them off, and the Celtics are not the 2004 Detroit Pistons yet. They may not be that bad offensively, but I think Milwaukee is probably the favorites right now. It'll be interesting to see, though. I think a couple of these things could change just given the nature of the NBA. But right now, I think either Phoenix or Golden State coming out of the West, and I think Milwaukee looks like they're the favorites to come out of the East, even if Miami is playing without Kyle Lowry and they could play better. But I think Milwaukee is the team to beat in the East.
For sure. Edmonton gets a power play goal. I think it was, it was Draisaitl. It hit a broken stick and it bounced right to him. And he netted a beautiful goal, ties the game at 3 in a very exciting hockey game. 9:54 left in the second. So it's like just at the halfway point of this game. Again, it's tied 3-3. Tim, what are your thoughts on the playoffs overall and how they've been going?
I just thought it was interesting. No upsets, no game 7s, and there was no primetime game no games at all on Saturday and no primetime game on Sunday last night. So that wasn't great, but fun series, and it's definitely going to be exciting to see who comes out, at the end into the finals.
And Brian, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, one thing I forgot to add on the Bucks Celtics series is the Bucks actually made the Celtics shoot 53 pointers in game 1, which is their franchise record for most in any game. So I'm not sure if it's any playoff game or any game period for the Celtics, which just goes to show you how much Giannis just clogs up the middle for this Celtics team and forces them to go to the outside. If that continues, it's going to be a long series, I think, for the Celtics. But yeah, I agree with what Tim said, that it's kind of weird that there was no game on Saturday. I would have really liked there to have been a game on Saturday. It feels like the perfect time to have had a game, and a primetime game last night would have been great as well. Instead of, these late ass games tonight at 10 o'clock tip off between the Suns and the Mavericks. But it is what it is. These series have been great so far. I'm really enjoying it, and it should be fun the rest of the way.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys helping me break down all the games, a lot of different series to catch. I've been watching a lot of hockey, and there's just so much sports going on. I'm pretty happy that we're able to cover it all into tonight. And Brian, I'm going to mention real quickly some DC United talk, just because I saw that they did win their last game, maybe even last two.
No,
Oh,
they lost the last game.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe they won the previous
Columbus,
game. That's
3-0.
what. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's. Oh, you're right. They did. All right, but before that, I feel like they had some wins that we hadn't talked about. So like they won against New England Revolution. That's what it was, 3-2.
Yeah.
The previous Saturday that I forgot to mention last week. So, all right, well, so they won one and then they lost one, and then coming up, they've got a game against the Houston Dynamo on Saturday, May 7th. So is Houston good this year, Brian?
They're all right, but DC United's, obviously kind of a mess right now. They just fired their head coach, which a lot of people, it's kind of a hot button issue. A lot of people aren't sure if they should give him more of a chance or not. But he's gone, and DC United they have an interim head coach now. And in the first game with the interim coach, like you said, they did beat New England, but really crappy effort this past weekend against Columbus. Columbus is not good, and to lose 3-0 to them is really not a good result. So I don't know which way DC United's going right now. They got to get it together fast. And, yeah, I guess a good place to start would be against Houston this weekend.
Yeah. All right. Well, I figured we talked about almost every one of the other sports, so we should mention DC United as well.
Washington Spirit won their home opener as well, their first game of the season.
Oh, nice. What was the score in that game?
I believe it was 1-0 or 2-0. I think it was 2-0.
Cool. That's awesome. Yep. And that's pretty cool. So I do like that we have them. And because like women's soccer wasn't around, that it went away and then it came back, and so it's cool that we've had some success there as well. So talking about a lot of different DC sports this week, and I appreciate all of you guys. I'll let Arun give his final thoughts on any topic he want to do, and then I'll let him go and watch the rest of this basketball game. But Arun, any final thoughts?
Just congrats to Tim for the Orioles winning 2 out of 3 against the Boston Red Sox. Sure, Tim and Brian are really happy with that. Yeah. And thanks for having me on, and hope to be on soon.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully we'll have you back on next week to break down these series more. But Arun, I appreciate it as always. If you go to sportsothp.com and click on Team SportsOTHP, it's got links to all of Arun's content. And I see that Tim says his laptop died, but so we've got a frozen Tim face, I think, on screen. Is that fun? That's really funny. I will manually end his feed, but I'm sure Tim would have had some witty comment to end it on. I will. That's really funny. Can I? I'll remove Tim. There we go.
I'll just second what Arun said. Thank you to the Orioles for taking 2 out of 3 from the Red Sox this weekend. And I'd like to remind people again, the Yankees have won 10 games in a row.
Nice. All good. He was apologizing. It's all good. Tim, don't worry about it. You were great. So Arun, you've given your final thoughts. Check out Hey Arun's podcast. So again, the links are on Team Sports OTHP, just like Brian's links upon further review are on Team Sports OTHP's links on that page, and also a podcast partner of Sports on the Hill podcast. So thank you, Brian, for helping us break down baseball and also talking NBA. And I know that your schedule is ever changing. I hope to have you on next week, but it'll obviously be schedule dependent. But I appreciate your insight as always on that, and some soccer as well. So we got 3 topics in today. I'm going to bring Carol back in so that he can help wrap up the show. Brian, any final thoughts before I let you go?
No, thank you guys for having me on. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Rangers tomorrow against Pittsburgh. I appreciate all your kind words about the Rangers as well. So I very much enjoyed that. But other than that, Robbie, CP3, you guys have a great rest of your night. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Thank you, Brian. All right, Carol. Well, we're coming down to the end of the show. Any final thoughts about any of the things we talked about tonight before we stop the Facebook Live? And then I will do a little post show to finish up the evening over on my Twitch stream. Maybe show a couple of clips. We've been over on We Speak English Good. I'll give a shout out to that. Last week, that thing has gotten over 1,000 views already, Carol, across different podcast platforms. So I appreciate it. We mixed it up. We talked about like 15 different things over 3 hours. It kind of reminds me of what you do on your Sunday show, Carol. We talked about all sorts of stuff. I posted it on sportsothp.com. If anybody wants to go check out that podcast or the video from that as well. And Carol, are you guys going to have an episode of the why am I drawing a blank on it? The radio, your other podcast.
At the bar radio.
At the bar radio. I knew it was radio. I was like, where is it? At the bar. Right, there you go.
Yeah, as of right now, we're looking like we're going to have a show. Would it be a Mother's Day? I'm going to holler at 151 and see. I'm not supposed to do some stuff with my mom. So we're going to play it by ear. I know Lady Antoinette's going to be out of town. So right now, we're going to play it by ear. You can check out my YouTube channel. We had a great interview with Raheem, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. It was a great interview. It was on for about an hour. It's on my YouTube channel, Carol Porter III. That's with 3 eyes, not the number 3. End the show on my feed as always. With this week, instead of playing independent music videos, I did highlights of the 8 draft picks that the Washington Commanders drafted. So I'll be playing the highlight videos on my feed after we get off of the initial show when Robbie jumps on the Twitch. So as always, appreciate y'all checking us out. Season 6, busy time of year. Got football, baseball, hockey, basketball, soccer. So stay tuned. I'm working on getting the boxing special. I haven't had part of boxing down in a while. We had some fights going on this past couple of weeks that need to get discussed. So stay tuned for that. If you're in the market for a new or used vehicle, check me out down at Waldorf Honda, 2450 Crane Highway down in Waldorf. I'm off tomorrow, but I'm there just about every day, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, sometimes open on Sundays too.
Carol, before we go, I have one quick question for you. Have you been watching this Edmonton-LA game that I've been breaking in with? It's crazy. Yeah, Edmonton just blew up another power play, 5:15 left. Oh my God, it's a close game though, real exciting game.
And St. Louis still up 3-0 on Minnesota with 15 minutes and 50 seconds left in the third. So yeah, we'll be ready to watch some Capitals playoff hockey tomorrow night starting at 7:30. Next week we'll be broadcasting.
On Tuesday. That's a good point. I'm happy that you mentioned that. We're not going to try to compete with Game 4 on Monday, and so we'll recap all the 4 games. Hopefully. I'm hoping for 2 wins at least, Carol. That would be really exciting. I hope we don't have 0. I will be really sad next Tuesday if we don't have a win to talk about. So I'm hoping for at least 1 or 2.
Yeah, we're going to see how it all plays out, but can't wait to see, NHL playoff hockey we watching now. Can't wait to see what the Caps look like tomorrow against Florida. It's going to be an interesting series. And like I say, I always appreciate y'all checking us out. As I said, on my feed, I'm going to play some of the highlight videos. Robbie's going to do his thing on Twitch, so check y'all out next Tuesday. Check out At the Bar Radio Sunday the 6th, if we be on this week. If not, it's always around 6 o'clock. DC Sports about the politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. CP3, RobbieG, we out.
Recording stopped.
Cool. All right. So we're live on Twitch here, and I appreciate everyone for staying on. And I thought I would do a little post show and I really appreciate everyone for stopping by, whether you be lurking. And I really encourage people to go check out the We Speak English Good channel, Bricks Go Burr, all the mods for stopping by. Turbo, I think, is still lurking. I appreciate you, Turbo. And Carly and Champ for earlier. And just had a lot of great people joining us. I think it's really cool. A year being an affiliate. It's a weird thing, right? Because I've done 7 years of streaming, but only 1 year of like really taking Twitch seriously. But I really appreciate the community that's over here, and I know that they're not all DC sports fans like I am. And we share this on Facebook. It's a whole different situation, right? So it's on Facebook, everybody is all into watching DC sports, asking me DC sports questions, stuff like that. And that's where we got our start. We've grown over the last, this is our 7th season. So over 6 years, we have a couple thousand people that check us out over there, and that's our biggest platform. But it's really cool here. It's a lot of my close friends, people I get to see on other channels throughout the day, and the people that really encouraged me to come back to this, because I was on Twitch years ago, but there wasn't a big podcasting platform on here. And at the time, it was just chatting. And I just didn't feel like internationally people would care about watching DC sports. And so I just kept it to the Facebook. But becoming friends with Carly and Turbo and a lot of other people, they were like, oh, you should just do it. And especially with Josh's group, the Turkeys, they all pushed me to do it as well. And so I brought it back, and a lot of people have been great to mod for me, and it's cool to see people that I mod for. They're VIPs in this channel, and it's just been a lot of fun, and it's just been a really cool opportunity to talk about a whole different bunch of stuff. I really enjoy talking sports. If people want to see other stuff, I do want to show one thing. Let me see if I can share the screen again. Share screen. And I just wanted people to know, webandgames.com is my website. On there, you can catch all the latest stuff, including, I was on, this awesome podcast with We Speak English Good, and I was talking about it before. It's got over 600 plays just on SoundCloud, so it's just really cool to be in a different light. So if people haven't checked that out and gotten to it, he put it on his YouTube channel. The link is on sportsothp.com or webandgames.com, which is my website. We talk about so many different topics, just sort of scrubbing through here, but we talk about scuba diving, don't kick sharks in the face. They talk about manta rays, all these different dive videos that I do. So it's a cool, it was a really cool episode, and I'm happy that I got to be a part of it and get to do something that's not just sports talk. So if you're interested in that, it's a 3-hour show. We talk about a lot of stuff. We play a lot of games. We got some cool raids. I mod over there, so I just really hope that people check out We Speak English Good. I'll give it a really quick shout out. Who is We Speak English Good, and you can get all the links over there. You can catch me modding. It was just such a really fun thing and a different thing to do. And We Speak English Good is a really big podcast. It's really for music streamers. Hattie and a lot of our other friends have been on it before. Hopefully we'll get Carly on it. We did debut her music video during that show as well. You can catch Carly Sings on YouTube as well, and I'll give her a shout out too. And you can catch her tomorrow at 10 a.m. She is awesome. And again, this website's got everything. And whether you go to Team SportsOTHP, you can see here we got Carol's bio with all of his links. He's on a ton of different stuff, all of my stuff. Anna, who's usually on Caps Talk, and she'll be back next week on Tuesday. All of her information. Arun, Brian, Tim, Champ, Dugenet, all the other people that contribute. If you want to know any of their social media links, again, Team SportsOTHP on sportsothp.com. If you want any of our social media, click the social media. You have all of the ones for SportsOTHP, but also our personal Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and here's my Twitch channel. And I'm going to add Carol's as well, because CP3 now has a Twitch channel as well. So I encourage people to go follow that as we try to grow it and make it an affiliate in the future as well. Again, the podcast archive has all of our old shows. Apparel has all of our apparel. You can pick up, well, this one's actually limited edition, but you can catch all of our other stuff that you see me wearing. It's been great people like the merch. You can even rep stuff about the championship run. We still have the District of Champion, and we've got the pillows, which I highly recommend as well. And so yeah, I really appreciate everyone's for supporting over the course of this last year and making Twitch a really cool thing. And people who love our YouTube channel, this video is going to be number 299. And soon I'll have number 300 of my videos on YouTube. So I appreciate people for checking me out over there. That's the last thing I'm going to quickly shout out. YouTube.com / well, if you go to sportsothp.com, you can click on either Carol's or mine. Mine is youtube.com / Robbie Gross, but you can also get Carol's YouTube channel as well. On there, you can get stuff like concert videos from all the concerts I've went to. In 2 weeks, I'm going to an AJR concert with my son, and so I'm going to film his very first concert and make a video there. We also have all of the old vlogs and podcasts and videos from this show and other shows, including the Power Play Point podcast that we did live on Twitch. Also, I do family vlogs. So I did one from Easter a week ago, an Arizona trip. I do these all for my children, so that way they can go back and see them later. But there are some pretty cute videos. So if you want to check that out, you can even see all the cool stuff, including my very first dance at my wedding and other fun stuff there. So, there's lots of great content. Also, if you're into seeing more about the scuba diving, I've done a lot of really cool scuba videos. You can check that out here. Here are some of the other streams, including doing art with Carly Sings. I've interviewed Josh and Carly before on this channel, and those videos are on YouTube, or any of my old Pokemon content, or any of my super old videos, including my most famous video I've ever done, which is a Tiesto video back in Raleigh, Durham 11 years ago. That's got 15,000 views from people in Russia, which I'll never understand, but you never know what's going to go viral on YouTube, right? Also, another popular video is the Smashing Pumpkins one. It was a really cool video that I shot with Smashing Pumpkins, Noel Gallagher from Oasis, and AFI. Some highlights from all that, cut down to 20 minutes. That is a very popular video. And also the very first pitch in Nationals history can be found on my channel. I was there for the very first game in Philadelphia. It's a really cool moment, and I'm happy I documented that. Because now I do a Nationals podcast all these years later. So check out any of my videos or any of our other stuff. Again, sportsothp.com. It's got all the links. Podcast Partners has got Power Play Point podcast if you want more of Brian Brennan. It also has No Spots podcast if you want more from Champ as well. Power Play Point podcast is more if you want stuff from Anna, and Brian Brennan's got a Pawn Further review with Brian Brennan. And also we have Dujanet who does the breakdown. So lots of awesome content, a lot of great things. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. We're going to figure out a raid target right now. So if anybody is still in chat, Turbo 300. And I want to also thank everyone for the 300 follows that happened on this channel this year. I know that podcasting isn't the most popular of topics on this platform. Music and games are much more popular, but I really appreciate it. If anyone, Turbo, if you have got anybody you want to raid to, I'm going to catch this Choodle. Let me see if I've caught it before. I have, but I'll just do a regular pokey catch for that. But if anybody has anybody that they want to go to, you can shout them out right now. Taking a quick look at my live right now. I've got a bunch of really cool people. I know I always like Sarah Cameron. We go to her a lot, but I'm down to do that unless somebody has any other ideas on who to raid. Sarah is great. I highly recommend her. So I think unless anybody has any other idea, we'll just raid Goldfish 19. Oh, yeah. I didn't even know that Goldfish 19 streams. What are they streaming, Turbo? Let us know. That is a possibility. I didn't. Yeah, well, I'm down for seeing new people too. I've always seen Goldfish in other streams, and I think they mod for voice unmuted if I remember correctly. So all right, well, if you don't feel like go Star Wars, Oh, Lego Star Wars is what that they're doing. Oh, cool. Yeah, why don't we do it? I love Lego Star Wars, and yeah, okay. We'll raid Goldfish 19. Oh, it's mature. All right, I'll give a quick little shout out to Star Wars. I'm wearing Star Wars PJs right now. May the 4th be with all of you coming up. And happy birthday to one of my best friends, John Benson, on the following day on Cinco de Mayo. And then on Friday, we're going to head out and go. We always go to see the Marvel movie that comes out around his birthday. And so I'm excited to see Doctor Strange this weekend. I'm going to give a raid and sub raid for anybody that wants to do that. Yeah, goldfishes. That's awesome. I know Turbo likes fishes, has them in there, and I really appreciate all the people lurking and everyone that's going to go over to the raid. Any of these 3 viewers, I will send people over there now. Thank you, Turbo, for modding. Thank you, everyone, for lurking. And we'll be back with episode 270 next Tuesday, not Monday. A special time when, since we don't want to compete with Game 4. Hope you guys have an awesome night. Thank you guys all for stopping by. And let's go check out some Lego Star Wars.